Chapter 1865. Have all the forces withdraw the arrest warrant for Orpheus. When this sentence came out of Noah's mouth and echoed in the surroundings, the atmosphere of the entire room changed. Asachel's expression became dignified. He frowned and looked straight at Noah. Why? Nothing. Noah met Asachel's gaze. It's just that I found that Orpheus is not as dangerous as we thought. I can stop her from acting with the disaster squad. In this way, there is no need to continue to arrest Orpheus, right? You have a way to stop Orpheus from acting with the disaster squad? Asachel's eyes lit up and he quickly asked. Really? There is no need to lie to you, Noah said. Just leave Orpheus to me. I will be responsible for looking after her. If anything happens, I will bear the responsibility. Since you've put it this way, there shouldn't be a problem. Asachel glanced at Orpheus, then smiled bitterly again. But, Noah, if you want to withdraw the arrest warrant for Orpheus, I don't think it will be that easy. Oh. Noah's expression did not change. Why? You're asking the obvious. Asachel sighed. Even if you can guarantee that the criminal will not commit any crimes in the future, can you write off the crimes he committed before? That was right. Even if it was guaranteed that Orpheus would not participate in the activities of the disaster squad in the future, the fact that this infinite dragon god was the leader of the disaster squad in the past could not be ignored. Orpheus herself may not have done anything, but she had given her snake to various terrorists in the disaster squad. As a result, these terrorists had greatly increased their strength and brought harm to various mythical forces. Now, the terrorists of the disaster squad were still active. Just like this town had been attacked by the heroes of the disaster squad, the rest of the mythical forces were also attacked by the terrorists of the disaster squad. Under such circumstances, the number of casualties increased day by day. If Orpheus had not lent out the snake, even if the terrorists had launched an attack, their strength would not have increased, and the damage would have been much lower. Therefore, Orpheus could be said to be the indirect culprit. At the very least, that was what the other mythological forces were thinking. Orpheus is the infinite dragon god. He is extremely powerful. Almost no mythical powers would want to make an enemy out of him, Asachel said solemnly. If it was just one mythical organization, they might have chosen to swallow the bitter pill because of Orpheus' power and reputation. But now, in terms of dealing with the disaster, all the mythical organizations have reached an agreement. All the mythical organizations have joined forces. If they don't even dare to cause trouble for one person, everyone will feel embarrassed. In addition, Orpheus' limitless power is also something that all the mythical organizations are interested in. There are many gods and Buddhas who have their eyes on Orpheus. Maybe many gods and Buddhas will use their official position for personal gain and incite all the mythical organizations to deal with Orpheus together. Then, they will benefit from it. That would work. Asachel knocked on the table. Under such circumstances, it won't be easy to revoke Orpheus' arrest warrant. I know it's not easy, but as you said, all the mythical organizations actually understand how powerful Orpheus is. Presumably, if we can prevent Orpheus from continuing to act with the disaster squad, no one would be unwilling to see this situation, Noah said calmly. Help me convey a message. Tell all the people of the mythical organizations that Orpheus is with me. I will be responsible for watching over her and making sure she doesn't act with the terrorists of the disaster squad. But if they refuse, Orpheus will return to the disaster squad. Noah curled his lips and smiled. If you don't want more deaths and injuries to your subordinates, then revoke the arrest warrant. I believe that this will be enough to make those self-righteous gods and Buddhas fear. You. Asachel was speechless. You are not negotiating at all. You are threatening me, right? What kind of threat is this? Noah said with a half-smile. I don't belong to any mythical organization. This way, I'm helping all mythical organizations eliminate a terrifying enemy. I'm even preventing the terrorists from obtaining the power of the snake that can increase their strength. I'm doing this selflessly without considering my own interests. If others don't agree, then there's no need for me to do this kind of thing that doesn't benefit me in any way, right? In other words, Noah turned a legitimate threat into a selfless help. Asashel could only choke on his words. After a while, he gave Noah a thumbs up. You are awesome. You can even turn a dead person into a living person. Aren't you afraid that those mythical organizations will turn against you and think that you are in cahoots with the leader of the disaster squad? Are you planning to harm all the mythical organizations? If they want to say that, then let them say it, Noah said faintly. It's just that if they really attack me, then I won't be passive. Anyway, it's not my first time killing a god. Don't mess around. Asashel rolled his eyes. I will convey your message to those mythical organizations. I believe that if the opponent is the god slayer and the infinite dragon god, no matter which mythical organization it is, they won't do such a stupid thing as provoking them. Of course, they won't do it on the surface, but I can't guarantee it secretly. Asashel glanced in the direction of Orpheus. In addition, what are you going to do with Orpheus? I will let her live with me. Noah also glanced at Orpheus. You don't have to worry about it. Alright, since you have promised, I have no choice but to believe you. Asashel stood up. But you have to be careful. The people from the disaster squad won't let you win Orpheus over to our side. Hearing Asashel's words, Noah suddenly smiled. Anyway, the people from the hero faction have their eyes on me. If they want to come, then come. On the other side, in a suburb not far from Chariot King Town, two men who seemed out of place with their surroundings slowly walked over. Looking at the ordinary small town, one of the men muttered. Is this the town where the God Slayer is? It looks like an ordinary small town. I really don't know why such a person would stay in such a place. The other man shrugged and said. But then again, you really do care about that so-called God Slayer, Chow Chow. A human who can kill a god. As the descendant of a hero, and also a human, my curiosity has long been piqued. The man called Chow Chow smiled. Don't you think it's a pity that such a person has been staying with a group of alien existences? Siegfried? It is indeed a pity, but I don't think he would be as concerned as you. The man called Siegfried smiled mockingly. This is also because you are the descendant of Chow Chow, right? You and your hero ancestor are the same. You cherish talented people, don't you? Perhaps this is one of the reasons. Chow Chow lifted a spear and tapped it on his shoulder. However, I also hope to be able to fight him. If he really did kill a god and I can defeat him, then it will prove that I also have the ability to kill a god. You have the ability to kill a god, don't you? Siegfried couldn't help but turn his gaze to the spear in Chow Chow's hand. Relying on that spear. At this time, a magic circle for communication suddenly flashed in front of Siegfried. Siegfried's face immediately tensed up and he began to listen. After a while, Siegfried suddenly raised an eyebrow and looked at Chow Chow. There's news from the troops monitoring Wally. They say that Wally handed Orpheus over to a human. A human? Chow Chow smiled. It seems that we will make contact with the God Slayer sooner than expected. What do you plan to do? Siegfried asked directly. Attack the God side? Or attack the God Slayer's side? Do you even need to ask? Chow Chow's eyes shone brightly. Of course we will attack both sides at the same time. Chapter 1866. After really starting to live with Orpheus, Noah realized that this dragon god really didn't know anything. To be more precise, it should be said that he didn't know anything about daily life. For ordinary people, it was necessary to wash up and eat, but Orpheus didn't have such a problem. Not only did he not wash up, but he also ate whenever he wanted to. He didn't follow the 3-meal schedule at all. Noah had no choice but to help Orpheus brush his teeth and bathe him. He fed him mouthful by mouthful when he ate, and even covered him with a blanket when he slept at night. He took care of him like he was taking care of his own child. Fortunately, it wasn't like Noah hadn't done the same thing before. Back in the world of the Dark Bullet, Noah had taken care of countless children, so he was already familiar with this routine. Fortunately, Orpheus was just ignorant of the world, but he wasn't a fool. He knew what to do without having to be taught a second time. Moreover, Orpheus would do whatever Noah asked him to do. He was extremely obedient. In this way, Noah also began to understand why Orpheus was so easily manipulated. Although it wasn't that he didn't have his own considerations, Orpheus' way of thinking was very simple. In Drake's words, it was too pure. Noah had asked Orpheus why he listened to him so much. After all, Noah and Orpheus weren't close, nor were they on good terms. In the beginning, they even fought. Generally speaking, it should be impossible for him to listen to such a person. In the end, Orpheus gave Noah such an answer. Give me food to eat and teach me a lot of things. That was the reason. That was why Orpheus obeyed Noah's every word. The starting point of this dragon god was really too simple, so simple that even Noah was surprised. Hence, when others told her that as long as she became the leader of the group of disasters and provided everyone with power, they would help her defeat the real emperor god Red Dragon, Orpheus agreed without hesitation. She never thought that others were lying to her or using her. If such an innocent dragon god fell into the hands of some ambitious people, it would be too dangerous. Whether it was for himself or others, it was the same. At the thought of this, Noah couldn't help but murmur to himself as he helped Orpheus dry her waist-length beautiful black hair. Wally, is that why you brought Orpheus to me? Just as Noah was thinking about this, Noah's phone rang. Noah immediately came back to his senses. He picked up the phone on the table and answered the call. Teacher. Liatha's voice came from the other side of the phone. Are you home now? I'm at home. Noah didn't stop wiping Orpheus' hair. What? What's the matter? A little, Liath said. If you're free now, please come to school. Now? Noah turned his head and looked out the window. At this time, the sky was completely dark. At this time, children could already go to bed. Even adults should be asleep soon. It was a little too late to go to school at this time. However, for demons, night was usually the time when they were really active. Was that why Liath called Noah at this time? Thinking of this, Noah glanced at Orpheus. After pondering for a while, he nodded. Got it. I'll go over now. Then I'll wait for you in the club office. Liath said and hung up the phone. Noah put away his phone. He wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he continued wiping Orpheus' hair. He only spoke after Orpheus' hair was dry. Orpheus, I'm going out for a while. Wait for me at home. Home? Orpheus turned his head, and a pair of eyes as deep as the night turned to Noah. Home? Looking at Orpheus' puzzled look, Noah, who had begun to understand Orpheus' thoughts, smiled and said so. That's right. Home is not referring to the dimensional gap where you were born, but here. Here? Orpheus murmured as if he was sleep-talking. This is my home? That's right. Noah patted Orpheus' head. If you're willing, this will always be your home. Remember to be good and wait for me to come back. Orpheus was silent for a while, and then nodded. However, Noah was still a little worried. This Lord Dragon God didn't know anything. Who knew if she would suddenly run out and get lost and never come back? Looks like I have to find 2 more people to accompany you. Noah sighed and raised his hand. A dark gold gift card flashed in his hand. Clank. In a flash, 2 small swords emerged from the dark gold gift card. Hum. As soon as they appeared, the 2 small swords immediately trembled and emitted a dazzling light. Then, 2 petite girls slowly appeared in the light. Aster, Athena. Noah put away the dark gold gift card and said to the 2 girls. Help me take care of Orpheus. Take care of? Aster was stunned. Obviously, this elf girl did not expect Noah to ask her to do such a thing. You actually want me to help you take care of a child? Even Athena was a little surprised. After all, only the 2 of you can help me. Noah smiled bitterly. Well, you just need to help me take care of Orpheus. Don't let her do anything reckless. Don't let Orpheus do anything reckless. Aster muttered and then nodded heavily. I am Master's sword. Everything is as Master wishes. I really want to object. Although I have taken care of countless warriors, I have never taken care of a child. Athena frowned and then relaxed her beautiful brows. Fine, I am quite curious about this dragon god. I can have a chat with her. Aster and Athena turned their heads and looked at Orpheus. Orpheus also raised her eyes and looked at Aster and Athena. Suddenly, the three young girls who looked almost the same age and whose expressions didn't fluctuate looked at each other, staring at each other. Although the scene wasn't comical, there was a subtle feeling. Noah couldn't help but laugh. He picked up the coat on the bed and put it on as he spoke. Then I'll leave it to you. Be good and don't cause trouble. With that, Noah walked out of the door, leaving the three petite girls looking at each other. The atmosphere was still very subtle. After exiting the door, Noah directly turned into a stream of light and flew in the direction of the academy. Noah's apartment wasn't very far from Chariot King Academy to begin with. It would only take a few minutes to get there on foot, let alone by flight. They would arrive almost instantly. Noah flew into the school and landed in front of the Supernatural Research Department's old school building. He pushed the door open and walked in. It was only when Noah arrived at the Supernatural Research Department's office that Noah noticed something. Among the people present, there were not only the Jamonli's family led by Leah's, but also Sazak's. Moreover, there was another person in front of Sazak's and Leah's. It was a very imposing man. The man had short black hair and a very strong physique. He looked a little like Sazak's, but his temperament was completely different. If Sazak's was a person who exuded a gentle and elegant temperament and gave off the feeling of a noble young master, then this man in front of him was a man who was domineering and made people feel that he was very wild. Noah could feel a strong domineering aura from this man. Therefore, Noah was sure that the man was much stronger than Leah's. Teacher. The Jamonli's family led by Leah's greeted Noah as he walked in. You're here? Sazak smiled at Noah. On the other hand, the remaining wild and domineering man stared at Noah with a fierce smile on his face. Is this the legendary Godslayer? Let me introduce you. Sazak stepped forward. Noah, he's Saroj Bali. He's my cousin. Bali? Noah raised his eyebrows. Chapter 1867. Baal. This surname was not something that could be casually ignored for demons. Because it was the head of the 72 pure-blooded demons and was crowned with the title of king. It was the family with the highest status in the demonic faction apart from the four great demon kings. Even in the era when the four great demon kings still existed, King Baal was a famous existence in the demonic faction and was almost equivalent to the representative of demons. It was said that in the current system where the four great demon kings were extremely powerful individuals selected from the demons and abandoned their original surnames to become demon kings, the Baal family's voice in political power was even greater than the four great demon kings. After all, the Baal family was the family that was at the top of the demonic faction before the four great demon kings died. After the four great demon kings died, it was even more at the top of the underworld. No matter how powerful the four great demon kings led by Sazaks were, they were just the new generation. At least, that was the case for the Baal family. However, Sazaks and Lias also had some relationship with the Baal family. It was mainly a bloodline relationship. Sazaks and Lias' mother was a member of the Baal family. Therefore, Sazaks and Lias also inherited half of the Baal family's bloodline. And those who inherited the bloodline of the Baal family had a chance to awaken the bloodline power of the Baal family. That was the power of destruction. Both Sazaks and Lias had the power of destruction. The source of this power was the bloodline of the Baal family. Therefore, this person named Saroj in front of them was Sazaks and Lias' cousin. By the way, Saroj and I are the new generation of demons of the same era, and the number one of the new generation of demons. Lias smiled at Noah. Just like I'm going to inherit the next head of the Gimli family, Saroj is the next head of the Ball family. It's fine if you don't introduce that kind of thing, Lias. Saroj waved at Lias, but his eyes did not move away from Noah. In front of an existence that can even kill a god, I, a new generation demon, am only a child no matter how famous I am. Although that was what he said, Saroj's smile was extremely imposing. Saroj added another sentence. If possible, I really want to spar with you. Hearing this, Noah raised his eyes slightly and met Saroj's gaze. Noah could see an astonishing fighting spirit and will to fight in Saroj's eyes. It was different from the burning fighting spirit that Leola released out of instinct. Instead, it was an unyielding fighting spirit that wanted to challenge any powerhouse in the world, improve herself, and constantly improve herself. Along with the battle intent came a powerful aura and boldness. Feeling the powerful aura and boldness, the expressions of Yudu, Genova, and Irina, who were combatants, turned serious. Even Kitten, Label, and Los Valles tensed up. As for Aisha and Gasper, they subconsciously hid behind Lias and Junai. Sazax was the only one who still had a smile on his face, and even said so. Since that's the case, why don't you two give it a try? That one sentence made Noah and Saroj raise their eyebrows at the same time. Bro. Brother? Riaz was shocked. However, Sazax did not seem to realize what he said as he looked at Noah and said so. Saroj is the number one of the new generation of demons. Back then, at the gathering of the new generation of demons, you should have seen him once, right? Hearing Sazax's words, Noah remembered. Back then, in the underworld, there was indeed a gathering of the new generation of demons. At that time, Noah had also appeared. Furthermore, he had been received by the 4 demon kings and was on equal footing with them. After that, the new generation of demons announced their dreams in front of the 4 great demon kings and many ancient demon families. At that time, the next leader of the Ball family did appear. That person was Saroj. I remember now. Noah looked at Saroj as if he suddenly realized something. You're the new generation demon of the Ball family who announced that you wanted to become the demon king, right? So you still remember me. What an honor. The smile on Saroj's resolute face began to have a hint of intimacy. At that time, Your Excellency's bet with Diodora of the Astaroth family is still a legend to this day. To be honest, the strength Your Excellency displayed at that time was a shock to us, the new generation of demons, and even the ancient demons. It was also at that time that I realized that my cultivation was still insufficient, and have been working hard to train. I see. You've trained? Noah looked at Saroj in a new light. It seems that the spirit I feel from you is the real deal. It was rare for demons to train themselves. That was because the lifespan of demons was too long compared to humans. At least, there were almost no demons who truly died of old age. Therefore, for demons who had tens of thousands of years, as long as they lived long enough, they would naturally become stronger. It was a foolish thing to spend all of one's years on tempering. Moreover, demons placed more importance on magic power than their bodies. The purer the demon's bloodline, the stronger their talent in magic power. This way, as long as they could survive, the pure-blooded demons would continue to become stronger. Therefore, it was indeed a rare thing for demons to train. That's why I want you to fight with Saroj. Sazax said. Saroj is the absolute number one among the new generation of demons. In terms of strength, he has even surpassed many ancient demons. Many people want to know how strong Saroj is, and I am the same. I see. Noah pursed his lips. Do you want me to help you evaluate? I don't mind. Saroj showed a fearless smile. It's a good opportunity to let the famous Godslayer see how strong my fists are. An astonishing fighting spirit began to be released from Saroj's body. Noah immediately looked straight at Saroj and stared at the astonishing fighting spirit in his eyes. The corner of his mouth slowly curled up. In an extremely vast gymnasium. At this time, a group of Jimenez's family members, including Sazax, had arrived and stood at the side. In the center of the gymnasium, Noah and Saroj faced each other and maintained a distance. Their eyes met in the center. Looking at Noah and Saroj, Sazax took a step forward. This is a field replicated with magic power. Although it's not in an alternate space, but in the underground space of Chariot Town, the field has been reinforced. Even a full blow from a superior demon would find it difficult to leave a mark on it. You can fight to your heart's content. Even the battlefield has been prepared? This Sazax seemed to have expected this situation and prepared everything in advance. While Noah was thinking this, Saroj calmly took off his jacket. Under Saroj's clothes was a set of training clothes. And the body wrapped in the training clothes was very strong. His muscles were very obvious and his fists were as hard as rocks. Because I can fight at any time and train at any time, I would wear the training clothes even during normal times. It seems that this decision was right. Saroj suddenly smiled. A god slayer, and the Red Dragon Emperor at that. Such an existence should be the strongest opponent I've faced so far, so I won't be merciful. As soon as his voice fell. Bang! Accompanied by a burst of wind, Saroj fiercely stomped on the ground with an astonishing force. His whole body was like a bullet fired from a gun. With a heavy stomp, he shot in the direction of Noah. So fast. Outside the gymnasium, Yudu's expression changed slightly. Saroj's speed made Yudu, who was a knight, change his expression as he shot in front of Noah. Before he arrived, his fist had already violently blasted out. Boom! Like an invisible cannonball, a burst of wind shook the air and violently swept towards Noah's location. Chapter 1868. Whoosh! A terrifying gust of wind blew Noah's bangs in front of his forehead, causing his cheeks to hurt from the gust of wind. Noah, who did not expect Saroj to rush over and engage in close combat, had a surprised look on his face. What surprised Noah even more was Saroj's strength and speed. That strength and speed did not seem like something a demon could exert. Therefore, even Noah was surprised by the news. However, being surprised was one thing, but Noah was not distracted. Feeling the fist pressure that turned into a terrifying gust of wind, the endless energy in Noah's body suddenly surged and turned into magic power. Hum! With a tremor, lines of magic power flickered on Noah's feet like electric wires. After being strengthened by strengthening magic, Noah gained amazing strength in this instant. Immediately, Noah moved his feet and quickly dodged to the side. Bang! The astonishing fist pressure immediately landed heavily on the ground, causing an explosive sound. It actually shattered the glossy floor a little and slowly cracked open. Seeing this scene, Noah narrowed his eyes slightly. Outside the field, the group of Jamonli's kin led by Leah's was even more surprised. This field had been reinforced. Even a superior demon would have a hard time leaving a mark on it. However, Saroj's casual punch actually caused the floor to crack open. What did that mean? It meant that Saroj's strength was much stronger than the average superior demon. You really surprised me. Noah looked straight at Saroj. I thought you would use the power of destruction to attack. For demons, magic power was the true power. After all, in this world, magic power was originally an ability unique to demons. The power that demons relied on themselves and imagination to trigger supernatural phenomena was magic power. And the power that reproduced magic power through rituals and spells so that humans could use it was magic and magic. Therefore, in this world, magic power was a power exclusive to demons, just like the power of light of angels and fallen angels. In the demon world, demons generally valued magic power. If they did not have talent in magic power, they would even be regarded as trash. Moreover, in magic power, there were also parts of magic and magic that could not be reproduced. That was the special power that originated from the bloodline and lineage of the pure-blooded superior demon family passed down from generation to generation. The power of destruction of the Baal family was one of them. That power was capable of destroying everything it came into contact with. Even a god could be injured if they did not dodge or defend. Therefore, for Noah, the power of destruction of the Ball family was beyond the range of his curse resistance. The bet with Diodora back then had already made Noah's physique known to the world. Sarog, who was present at that time, should also know about Noah's curse resistance. In view of this, Noah thought that Sarog would use the power of destruction inherited from the Ball family to deal with him. Who knew that Sarog would directly rush over and engage in close combat? His physical ability was so strong that even superior demons would find it difficult to leave a mark on the floor with just the pressure of his fist. This was not a power that a demon who valued magic power could display. It was because of this that Noah was surprised. However, facing Noah's surprise, Sarog only calmly spoke. Unfortunately, I did not inherit the power of destruction. Did not inherit the power of destruction? Noah was stunned. Did not inherit the power of destruction? The next master of the Ball family did not inherit the power of destruction passed down from generation to generation? Was this a joke? I am not joking. I indeed did not inherit the power of destruction of the Ball family. I did not even have magic power when I was born. My talent in magic power is practically zero. No, it should be said that it is completely zero. Sarog said righteously. Everyone in the family regarded me as trash without the power of destruction, and without magic power. But I wanted to prove that even without magic power, I was not completely useless. Therefore, I trained this body. After saying this, Sarog squatted, his legs were like pillars on the ground. His fists were clenched, and his whole body shook with a powerful aura. This body is my greatest weapon, and also my only weapon. You will only face my fists, not magic power. In the next moment, a sharp whistling sound was heard as Sarog's fist violently punched out. The astonishing pressure of his fist shook again, turning into an invisible cannonball that violently swept towards Noah. Noah did not hesitate and directly dodged. Peng dash. The pressure of the fist that landed in the air once again bombarded the ground, causing the ground to suddenly burst open like a spider web, and cracks spread out. Although his fist missed, Sarog's fighting spirit became more and more valiant. He simply carried a powerful domineering aura and courage, and directly rushed in front of Noah. Hoo dash. A series of continuous whistling sounds rang out. That was the sound of Sarog's fists turning into fist shadows and fiercely attacking Noah like a storm. Facing the continuous punches formed by the fist that surpassed the power of ordinary superior demons, even the most superior demons would be frightened. However, Noah's expression became calmer than before. He stood in front of Sarog without retreating a single step, and actually closed his eyes. His footsteps were as light as water as he continuously dodged back and forth, dodging the continuous punches one by one. Peng dash. The suffocating powerful punches suddenly landed in the air one by one, and were all absorbed by the vast gymnasium floor, causing cracks and depressions to appear one after another. It was a scene of devastation and chaos. Noah, on the other hand, didn't even get hit by a single punch. His eyes were still closed as he relied on the increased strength of his legs to dodge all of Sarog's terrifying punches. He didn't get hit at all. Hiya dash. Sarog suddenly burst out with an astonishing roar, the veins on his arms bulging. The strength of his fists became stronger and stronger, and he even began to use his legs. His punches and kicks turned into a violent storm of attacks, mercilessly venting towards Noah. Noah, on the other hand, seemed to know where Sarog's attacks would land. He closed his eyes tightly, and like a lone boat drifting in a storm, he retreated and dodged, appearing to be in imminent danger and on the verge of collapse. In the end, Sarog's attacks did not hit him at all. Gradually, following Sarog's fierce attacks, Noah's rapid retreat and dodging, the entire vast gymnasium's floor was shaken to the point that it was covered with cracks from the astonishing punches. Looking at the scene, the expressions of the Jumanli's kin, led by Liath, became solemn. Everyone, Liath said in a deep voice. What do you think? Very strong. Genova gave a heartfelt evaluation. Let's not talk about Mentor first. Sarog is really strong. Just the strength of his punches and kicks is far beyond the average superior demon. Even the Varuk that can enhance attack and defense is not as strong as him, right? His speed is also astonishing. Yuta stared at Sorog, who was in the midst of his fierce attacks. Although I'm not satisfied, even if my speed is enhanced, as a knight, I'm still much weaker than Mr. Sorog, right? So this is the number one of the new generation of demons? Irina could not help but say. He's too strong. I finally know why even Minister Lyeth can't compare to him. It's really amazing that he could reach this level just by training his body. Los Vallas's expression unknowingly became solemn. The reason why he could become the next head of the Ball royal family without inheriting the power of destruction is because he has this power that far surpasses the demons of his generation, right? Mentor. Aisha said worriedly. Will Mentor be all right? Hearing Aisha's words, Laibel could not help but cast a worried look at Noah. Even Gasper could not help but poke his head out from behind Zhu Nai and look at the arena. It's fine. Kitten, on the other hand, stared at the center of the arena and said so. The opponent is strong, but Mentor is stronger. Chapter 1869. Bomb. With another explosion, the cracked floor of the gymnasium was finally blasted apart by a powerful punch. A crater was blasted open, and wood chips and debris were scattered all over the place like gravel and rubble. Noah and Sorog retreated quickly, putting some distance between each other. With the crater as the center, they returned to a standoff. Then, Noah slowly opened his eyes. In the face of that terrifying attack, there was not a trace of damage on his body. Sorog stared closely at Noah. His expression was solemn. He opened and closed his palms, and moved his feet. His eyes never left Noah's body. Then, Sorog spoke. As expected of an existence that can even kill a god. Until now, you have not launched an attack, not used your power, not even the legendary god's annihilation. You have only relied on magic to strengthen your leg strength to dodge all of my attacks. You are much stronger than I thought. Hearing that, Noah smiled slightly. Relying on his superb senses and leg strength that was comparable to a 5-digit divine being, Noah had completely grasped the rhythm and trajectory of Sorog's punches. Dodging all of the attacks was not a difficult task. You are also much stronger than I thought. Noah glanced at Sorog. And you haven't used your full strength yet, right? This one sentence caused everyone to be shocked. Oh. Sorog suddenly smiled. Why do you think I haven't used my full strength? Isn't that obvious? Noah shrugged. You have been attacking for so long, and you still don't look like you're panting. If you have used your full strength, you should be feeling tired by now, right? Only after Noah said that did Lias and the others realize what was going on. Sorog smiled bitterly and scratched his head. Damn it, you exposed yourself so quickly. I was thinking of at least giving you a surprise later. As he said that, Sorog's eyes suddenly focused. On Sorog's limbs, strange patterns began to flash. This is a technique that can increase the load and make my body bear the weight at all times. Sorog's voice echoed clearly. Let me show you my full strength. The strange patterns seemed to dissipate and gradually disappeared. Boom! In the next moment, with Sorog as the center, a powerful wave rushed out and turned into a whistling hurricane that swept out. The surrounding atmosphere suddenly became chaotic. The entire gymnasium began to shake. As the pupils of Jamanli's followers shrank, the wave that burst out from Sorog's body turned into a mist-like light that covered his entire body. That is? Kitten was shocked. That is Chi. Chi? Everyone stood up in shock. Anger? Lias was a little surprised as well. Sorog can use Chi. Could it be that he has learned immortal arts? No, Sorog did not learn magic, Sazak suddenly said. However, after a long period of training, Saroj accidentally stimulated the Chi hidden in his body. He was able to control his chi to a certain extent and form chi that could cause great harm to the human body and greatly increase attack and defense power. In other words, he can freely use chi without learning any immortal techniques that can control chi. The kitten couldn't help but tremble a little. I've never heard of such a thing. Chi was the source of life. It could also be called life force, life energy, and so on. Magic was the power that could control the flow of life, allowing people to freely use chi. However, Saroj was able to use his own chi to a certain extent without learning immortal spells. How could Kitten, a member of the most powerful race in the Nikomata clan, who could also use magic, not be shocked by such a thing that was beyond common sense? In response, Sazax shook his head. It can only form combat aura to increase attack and defense. It's still far from a real magic. Magic had a wide range of uses. It could be used to determine the flow of chi between heaven and earth, as well as strengthen the body by controlling the flow of chi in one's own body. It could even interfere with chi in nature, causing trees to bloom or wither. When the magic was cultivated to a high level, the user could even disrupt and block the opponent's chi, directly damaging the opponent's life force and internal body. Sarog did not learn any magic, so he could not use chi so widely. Sarog could only activate his chi to strengthen the body inside and outside and improve his physical ability. However, even if that was the case, it was still terrifying enough. Sarog's physical ability is already powerful enough to damage this reinforced gymnasium. Lias's eyes flashed. And with combat aura that can strengthen his body, could his ability be? That's right. Sazax confirmed Lias's guess. Although I haven't seen Sarog use his true strength, the upper echelons all believe that if Sarog uses his full strength, he can already match some of the higher-level demons. Now, this guess has been confirmed in front of me. The combat aura that surrounded Sarog's body fluctuated, causing the air around him to riot. Sarog raised his fist that was shrouded in combat aura, the corner of his mouth slowly lifted. It's been a long time since I used combat aura. It feels good to be able to use my full strength. As expected, you're much stronger than I thought. Noah looked at Saroj, but his expression had become terrifyingly calm compared to the beginning. You're already stronger than Diodora when she used Orpheus' snake, and you even activated your combat aura. You can even fight the most powerful demon, right? Unfortunately, my goal is not the most powerful demon, but the Demon King. Sarog's voice rang. I want to be the Demon King, not the most powerful demon. Just being the most powerful demon is not enough. That's true. Noah smiled coldly. If that's the case, I'll show you a little of my true ability. Sarog's expression froze, but his eyes were filled with anticipation. What kind of power will you show me? The power to kill gods? Or the power to destroy gods? I'm looking forward to it. Don't worry. Noah looked straight at Sarog, his body began to surge with a vast amount of magic power. I won't let you down. However, the outcome of the battle between Noah and Sarog was destined to be inconclusive. In the next moment, Noah and Sazax's expressions froze at the same time, and they shouted. Be careful. Everyone at the scene was stunned. Before anyone could react, a strange phenomenon occurred. A white fog began to seep in around the gymnasium, and gradually filled the entire space. Fog. Sazax seemed to have thought of something and stood up in surprise. Not good, everyone leave this place quickly. After saying that, Sazax immediately activated the teleportation magic circle. However, almost at the same time, the white fog filled the entire space, covering everyone's figure. Clank. A flash of true red blossomed from the white mist. It was the destructive magic power released from Sazax's body. The fog that came into contact with the destructive magic power was instantly dispelled. However, most of the fog still surrounded the entire gymnasium, covering everyone in it. Then, Sazax sensed it. Around him, familiar auras began to disappear one by one. Sazax's expression darkened. Not long after, the white fog began to dissipate. The full view of the gymnasium was once again imprinted in Sazak's eyes, and also in Sarog's eyes. Sarog was speechless. It seems that something has happened. Sazak nodded expressionlessly. Sorry, Sarog, I have to get to work. Sarog naturally did not have an opinion, and looked around the gymnasium. He looked around the gymnasium that was empty except for himself and Sazak's. Chapter 1870. After being covered by the white mist, Noah immediately felt his vision blur. It was as if he was thrown into the air. First, there was a sense of weightlessness, followed by a sense of dizziness. By the time the feeling of being on solid ground returned, Noah's vision had also recovered. However, what entered Noah's eyes was not the vast gymnasium that was still there a second ago, but a street surrounded by residential buildings. This is... Noah was surprised. He turned his head and looked behind him. There was an apartment there. Moreover, it was an apartment that Noah was very familiar with. It was the apartment that Noah lived in. I am back in the town. Noah narrowed his eyes and muttered. It can't be, right? In front of him was a familiar apartment. Around him was a familiar street. However, whether it was in the apartment or on the street, Noah did not feel a trace of life. If this was really the Chariot King town that Noah was currently residing in, then it would definitely not be so deathly still and devoid of life. Most importantly, it was clearly night time, but the sky here was very bright, as if it was daytime. Moreover, it was slightly rotating and twisting like a kaleidoscope, making people feel dizzy for a while. All these phenomena told Noah that this was not Chariot King town. What the hell is going on? Noah's brows furrowed tightly. At this moment, Drake's voice sounded in Noah's mind. Partner, this might be the power of the Dimension Lost. Dimension Lost? Noah was startled at first, then his heart skipped a beat. Dimension Lost. It was one of the 13 types of God's destruction tools. Moreover, it was one of the highest grade God's destruction tools. The ability of this God's destruction tool was to have the user as the center, infinitely spreading spirit energy. It could seal all objects that entered it, and even send them into another dimension. That is to say, in the process of my duel with Saroj, I was sealed by the wielder of a Dimension Lost, with the ability of divine annihilation. Noah looked around. Sealed in this fake Chariot King town? That should be the case. Drake replied. This space seems to be a replica of the entire Chariot King town, using the technology that the demons use to create extra-dimensional spaces for ranked games. You were transferred into this space by the power of a Dimension Lost. In other words, this is a different space? Noah's furrowed brows slowly relaxed. Is there a way out? Relying only on the power of the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear shouldn't be enough. Drake said. Among the God's annihilation tools, this Dimension Lost is of a higher level than the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear. It is known as one of the 4 most ferocious God's annihilation tools. Even if it's you, if you want to rely on brute force to escape, you won't be able to do so without your authority, right? Without his authority, it was impossible for Noah to rely on brute force to shatter a space. Moreover, Noah wasn't sure if he was the only one who was transported here. Perhaps, the others were also transported here. Noah's eyes flickered. I have to look for them. Just as Noah was thinking about this, the back of Noah's hand suddenly started to heat up. Noah subconsciously raised his hand, and then he saw it. On the back of his hand, 2 elven markings that merged into one were flashing, glowing, and burning. Seeing this, Noah's heart skipped a beat. Did something happen to Aster and Athena? With this thought in mind, Noah wanted to summon Aster and Athena, but after thinking about it carefully, he gave up on this idea. Although he didn't know what happened, Aster and Athena were with Orpheus, so even if something happened, they shouldn't be in danger. If he summoned Aster and Athena now, it was very likely that he would leave Orpheus alone. Letting Orpheus, who had absolute power but didn't have the heart to guard against others, act alone would be too unsettling. Therefore, it was more appropriate to let Aster and Athena accompany Orpheus. However, Noah and Orpheus were attacked at the same time, so Noah could only think of one person who would do this. Is it calamity again? Suddenly, the ground began to tremble. Noah raised his head and looked forward. In the next second, Noah saw it. At the front of the replicated street of Chariot King Town, a cloud of dust rose up. Noah's eyes gradually narrowed as he stared at the flying cloud of dust. He saw that in the cloud of dust, huge black figures began to appear. They were huge ferocious beasts. Roar! Roar! Woo! Chaotic roars mixed together and turned into a deafening sound wave that reverberated in the sky. Looking at the large number of ferocious beasts rushing towards them like a stampede of hundreds of beasts, Noah was shocked. Where did so many magical beasts come from? Just as Noah was a little surprised, Drake's voice sounded again. Partner, those are most likely magical beasts that have been created. What? Noah was stunned. Created magical beasts? That's right. Drake's voice clearly reverberated in Noah's mind. Using one's imagination to create all kinds of magical beasts. The stronger the imagination, the more powerful the magical beasts created. That is the same as the dimension lost, the annihilation maker, ability of the highest level of divine annihilation. Using imagination to create all kinds of magical beasts? Isn't that the same ability as Noah's beast horde incarnation? Is that also the power of a god's destruction tool? And it's also the highest level god's destruction tool? It seems that our opponents this time are at least two of the most ferocious god's destruction tools. Drake couldn't help but say. This is a little troublesome. As if to prove Drake's words, a large number of roaring magical beasts' eyes flashed with ferocious light. Like wild beasts, they rushed towards Noah with earth-shaking footsteps. Noah's eyes suddenly flashed with a fierce light as he advanced instead of retreating. Whing! Like electric wiring, magical lines spread out on Noah's arms and calves. Bang! Noah fiercely stomped on the ground, shattering it and turning it into a bullet that shot out of the barrel and shot towards the berserk beasts that were swarming over. Get lost! With a cold bellow, Noah threw a punch at a magical beast that was pouncing on him in a frenzy, causing the atmosphere to become chaotic. Dong! Accompanied by a heavy roar, the huge magical beast that was more than 100 times larger than Noah was directly sent flying by Noah's punch. The scales in front of its body exploded and sputtered blood. Like a kite with a broken string, it flew all the way back and fiercely crashed into the magical beasts behind it. The power of that magical beast was definitely comparable to that of an ordinary superior devil. However, the strength of a superior demon was at most in the 5 digits. Ordinary superior demons might not even reach the 5 digits. In front of an enhancement magic that could reach 5 digits, this level of power was just a punch. Roar! Roar! Woo! However, the rest of the magical beasts didn't seem to be afraid at all as they madly rushed towards Noah from all directions. Facing the ferocious magical beasts that rushed towards him from all directions, Noah's pair of deep dark eyes didn't show any solemnity or fear, but only a bone-chilling coldness. Dong! The sound of muffled blows was incessant. Bang! The buildings suddenly shattered. The battle between a single human and a large number of ferocious beasts had completely turned the street into a battlefield. The battle was one-sided. Chapter 1871. Bang! The sound of a blow that made one's heart tremble reverberated in the air, causing the huge magical beast to fly away like a rubber ball, heavily crashing into a building. At the same time, the building was smashed into pieces, and its head tilted to one side, no longer breathing. Clang! The flickering magical patterns on Noah's arms and calves faded little by little, becoming dim. However, the surroundings had greatly changed. The originally intact street seemed to have been ravaged and completely turned into ruins. One building after another became dilapidated. The streets were covered with rubble and debris. Numerous large magical beasts were lying on the ground, dripping with blood. The ground was gradually dyed red, causing the air to begin to fill with traces of the smell of blood. Noah was the only one who was standing in the center of the Azura-like battlefield. Even though he had fought with a large number of magical beasts, his face was still not red, nor was he out of breath. There was not a single trace of injury on his body. Phew. Noah gently breathed a sigh of relief, gradually calming down the excitement in his chest. Is this the power of the Annihilation Maker's godly annihilation tool? Relying on imagination to create all kinds of magical beasts' divine tools. At first glance, this Annihilation Maker's ability was very similar to one of Noah's powers, but there were still some differences. The most fundamental difference was that the beasts created by Noah's powers were just aggregations of energy, without consciousness or wisdom. Rather than calling them magical beasts, it was better to call them puppets. But the magical beasts created by the Annihilation Maker's Annihilation Maker could bleed, breathe, and even have a physical body, completely like a life. If the magical beasts created by the Annihilation Maker could exist forever, then it would be really amazing. After all, that was equivalent to the domain of creating life. However, the magical beast's strength is not high, at least much weaker than my beast horde. Noah's words made Dalag's voice sound again. That is only because the holder has not grown up yet. If the holder is stronger, then the magical beasts created will be stronger. Not to mention, since it is a divine tool, then there must be a restriction. If the restriction is used, then the magical beast's strength will be greatly increased, right? Noah nodded and agreed with Dalag's words. Since the opponent is from the disaster squad, we will meet sooner or later. Noah looked around. Let's go and see if anyone else was transferred here with me. With that said, Noah was about to move when a rather ferocious aura entered the range of his sensing ability. That aura was not only fierce, but it also had a very dangerous feeling. Noah's eyes focused, and he quickly. Swoosh. Almost at the same time, a black shadow suddenly shot in Noah's direction, causing a whistling sound to be heard. Its speed was extremely fast. Noah did not even think. The magic in his body rolled, and the magic patterns on his calves flashed again. His whole body was like a ghost, and he dodged to the side. The black shadow that was shooting over at an extremely fast speed suddenly trembled. It suddenly made a turn in midair, rubbing against the air as it streaked across the sky. It flew straight in Noah's direction without hesitation. At the head of the black shadow, the shining fangs were imprinted in Noah's eyes. At this moment, an indescribable feeling rose in Noah's heart. Partner. Dalag's voice also sounded. Those fangs are very dangerous. Don't get bitten. Even without Dalag's reminder, Noah understood this point. Those fangs were very dangerous. If he was bitten, even Noah might not be able to survive. But, if it was the other way around, don't be a problem just because I'm bitten, right? Noah abruptly stopped retreating. His deep, dark eyes stared at the black figure that was rushing towards him. He slowly clenched his fists, and the magic patterns on his arms also flashed with light. Just as Noah and the black shadow were about to clash, a somewhat anxious voice sounded. Wait. Wait. Quickly stop. The sudden voice caused the black shadow, which was rushing towards Noah's direction, to suddenly stop. Then, the black shadow swept into the air, flashed above Noah's head, and landed on the ground. Before that, Noah had already turned around. Thus, the black shadow's full appearance was finally completely exposed in the air. Upon closer inspection, it was actually a wolf. A wolf with gray fur all over its body. The wolf's size was not considered large, and was about the size of an ordinary wolfhound. However, such a wolf's body carried an almost terrifying aura, enough to make people tremble in fear. And this wolf clearly had extraordinary intelligence, and the gaze it used to look at Noah with was comparable to that of a human's. However, that pair of intelligent eyes was now filled with a kind of coldness and vigilance. That was vigilance towards Noah. The other party, obviously, had also discovered that Noah was not simple. At this time, two figures appeared from the top of a building not far away. They jumped down and landed on the ground. They were two young girls. Meow. One of the girls looked at Noah, who was facing off against the dangerous wolf, and was surprised. Isn't this the little brother god slayer that our Bain thinks highly of? Bain. That was Kitten's real name. There was only one person who would call Kitten that. That was Kitten, who had once depended on each other for survival, became a reincarnated devil, but killed her own master, and became a wanted criminal in the demon realm. Her talent in magic, sorcery, and immortal arts was almost astonishingly high, and her strength was comparable to the highest level of demon Nikomata Black Song. It's you? Noah frowned. Why are you here? I also want to know. On Black Song's delicate face, the surprise slowly faded, and was replaced by a coquettish and seductive smile. But, by the time I reacted, I had already been transferred here with Luffy-chan and Fenrir-chan. Meow, Fenrir. Noah's eyes flashed, and his gaze turned to the dangerous gray wolf. So that's how it is, it's Fenrir. The most ferocious demon wolf in Norse mythology, Fenrir. If it was it, the reason why even Noah felt that its fangs were very dangerous could be understood. No matter what, that pair of fangs was the God-slayer fangs that could kill even gods. With Noah's current physical strength, if he was bitten by those fangs, he would definitely die. Of course, as said just now, if he was not bitten, then it was not a big deal. After all, although Noah felt a dangerous aura from Fenrir, he did not feel threatened. Thinking about it, just like what Sazax and Asashel said, although Varley got Fenrir from Loki, it was impossible for him to completely control the existence of the top 10 in the world. Although the aura of Fenrir was very fierce and dangerous, it was not as strong as Noah imagined. It should be that Varley, in order to be able to control Fenrir, caused Fenrir's strength to decrease a lot, right? Fenrir was taken by Varley, and now you are working with Fenrir? Noah cast his gaze on Black Song again. You became a member of Varley's team? Because the other guys are too boring. Black Song shrugged helplessly. But my captain is much more interesting. He is only interested in the strong. He is also known as the Cat Elf race. It is more fun to follow Varley. Meow, how you want to play is your business. Noah glanced at Fenrir. But, when you play, I hope you can control your dog well. Otherwise, if you suddenly attack people like this, be careful that you will be slaughtered. Roar. Fenrir suddenly growled, and its four limbs began to tighten. Its eyes that stared at Noah were full of murderous intent and fierceness. Seeing this, Noah just curled his lips and smiled. He raised a fist that was faintly flickering with magic patterns, causing waves of magic to surge. A sense of hostility filled the space between Noah and Fenrir. On one side was the God-slayer. On the other side was the God-slayer wolf. The two existences that had the ability to kill gods seemed to repel each other, and both released undisguised hostility. Chapter 1872. Compared to before, Fenrir's power had indeed declined a lot. If the previous Fenrir was at least a 4-digit power level, and was one of the most powerful among the 4-digit power level, then now it was only at the 5-digit power level. If Noah only used magic after the third perpetual intelligence, then it would also be at this level. At this time when Aster and Athena were not around, Noah and Fenrir's power was about the same. However, other than the 5-digit power, whether it was Noah or Fenrir, they still had other weapons. Noah had the god's vanquishing tool. Fenrir had the god's fangs. Although the latter's weapon was very terrifying, as mentioned before, as long as one was not bitten, then nothing would happen. But Noah's god's vanquishing tool was different. Once the god's vanquishing tool that could multiply one's power was used, Noah would completely suppress Fenrir. If it was the previous Fenrir, Noah would still need to treat it seriously. However, the current Fenrir only needed to be careful of its fangs, then it would not be a big enemy to Noah. Do you want to fight me here? Nordic magic wolf? Noah said to Fenrir with a smile that was not a smile. I won't be merciful to you for Wally's sake. Roar. Fenrir growled again, its gray fur began to stand up, and its whole body fluctuated with a fierce and powerful aura. This demonic wolf's enmity towards Noah was not an ordinary kind of great. Moreover, from the beginning, it showed an astonishing hostility towards Noah. Therefore, Noah did not need to be too polite to Fenrir, and directly provoked it. And this situation made Black, who was at the side, a little excited. What? The God Slayer and the God Slaying Wolf want to decide the winner here? Good, good. Hurry up and fight, meow. This evil cat looked as if it wanted to see the world in chaos. On the contrary, the other girl beside Black came forward in a panic. No. No. They couldn't fight here. Fenrir sauce. The young girl's obstruction reduced the hostility on Fenrir's body by quite a bit, but the eyes that looked at Noah were still filled with coldness and vigilance. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. The girl stood beside Fenrir and kept bowing and apologizing to Noah. Fenrir seems to think that you are very dangerous, so he offended you like this. He was just worried that something would happen to us. He didn't really want to hurt anyone. I apologize to you on his behalf. I'm really sorry. This was the reason why Fenrir had such a strong hostility towards Noah, and why he had directly attacked Noah in the beginning. Just as Noah was aware of the danger of Fenrir's fangs, Fenrir was also keenly aware of the terror of Noah. Therefore, he attacked Noah from the beginning and was so hostile to Noah. Although he had wisdom not inferior to humans, Fenrir was still a demon after all. His way of thinking was closer to that of a beast. Instinctively aware of the terror of Noah, this demon wolf didn't hesitate to eliminate the threat. It was really pure. However, the famous demon wolf in Northern Europe seemed to be quite obedient to the girl who was constantly bowing. Under the girl's obstruction, he didn't have the intention to attack again. No, it should be said that he was observing, right? After all, Fenrir's eyes were still full of vigilance when looking at Noah. Noah didn't pay attention to Fenrir anymore, but looked at the girl who was constantly bowing. She seemed to be only 14 or 15 years old, the same age as the kitten. The girl wore a tall wizard hat on her head and a cloak on her back. She was dressed like a witch, but whether it was the hat or the cloak, they weren't black in color, but dark blue. There were also star patterns on them, which added a lot of cuteness. The girl seemed to be a foreigner, with a head of golden curly hair. At first glance, she was just a cute girl. However, Noah felt a strong magic power from the girl. It didn't refer to the magic power unique to demons, but the same as Noah's, magic power used to use magic and magic. In other words, the cute girl in front of him was a magician. This girl should be the Luffy that Black Goo was talking about, right? Looking at the girl who was constantly bowing to him with an apologetic expression, Noah couldn't help but sigh, loosening his clenched fist. Forget it, I didn't expect you to be transferred here. Could it be that Varley was also transferred here? Yes. Yes. Luffy quickly replied. We just got in touch with our companions in the team. Except for Captain Varley, the rest were transferred here. This is the work of the Dimension Lost, right? Black Goo licked his lips, as if he didn't realize how flirtatious his action was. His eyes were fluctuating with coldness. Those guys from the Heroes faction are finally planning to make a move against us. In other words, Dimension Lost, one of the 4 highest grade gods' extermination tools, is the possession of the Heroes faction? But why would the Heroes faction make a move against you? Noah looked at Black Goo. In a terrorist group, I won't talk about companions, but you are at least members of the same organization. Is your relationship so bad? There's no other way. Who told our captain to take Orpheus by his side without permission, and even gave her to you, an enemy? Black Goo spread his hands. You'll definitely be treated as a traitor, meow. Just as this sentence fell from Black Ge's mouth, a voice resounded. Classifying you as traitors is only one of our plans. After all, you are too unrestrained. If we let you do as you please, who knows when you will ruin our plans. So, we simply recruited all of you. Are you satisfied? Along with such a voice, the atmosphere at the scene became sinister. Noah narrowed his eyes, turned his head without any surprise, and looked at a building in the distance. Black Goo, Luffy, and Fenrir also didn't show any surprise, as if they had already noticed the other party's arrival, and turned their gazes over. Immediately, Noah and the others saw it. At the top of a building in the distance, a person was standing. A black-haired man wearing a Han costume, with a rather upright appearance, who looked like he came from a big country in the east. Looking at this black-haired man, Luffy's expression tensed up. Fenrir also stared over. Even Goo, who had been leisurely just now, began to retract his smile. He seemed to have become vigilant. It seemed that the black-haired man wasn't a simple character. However, compared to the black-haired man, Noah was more concerned about something else. The black-haired man was carrying a gun in his hand. A gun that was filled with fluctuations like dusk and blood, which could stimulate everyone's skin. From the gun, Noah felt a dangerous power similar to Fenrir's fangs. No. Judging from the intensity of the fluctuations, the gun was even more dangerous than Fenrir's god-slaying fangs. It really is you. Black Ge's eyes flashed with an evil light. I knew that this operation couldn't be separated from you, the leader of the heroes sect, Cao Cao. Cao Cao. This name was no stranger to those who were familiar with Chinese history. He was the monarch of the Wei Kingdom at the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty, a character recorded in famous works such as Records of the Three Kingdoms and Romance of the Three Kingdoms. The heroes sect was a human clan with the bloodline of heroes and brave people. The man in front of them was called Cao Cao, and he was also the leader of the heroes sect. There was no need to guess his true identity. There was no doubt. This man was the descendant of Cao Cao, the monarch of the Wei Kingdom at the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty. He had Cao Cao's bloodline, and even had a name. The one over there is the famous God Slayer, right? Cao Cao's gaze fell directly on Noah. I finally meet you, the human with the god-slaying power. After learning of your existence, I have always wanted to meet you. I even prepared this stage for this. I don't know if you are satisfied? His tone was quite calm. However, anyone could hear the provocation in his words. Chapter 1873. Noah looked straight at the man in Han attire standing at the top of the building in the distance, but he didn't pay any attention to the other party's pretentious provocation. Instead, he put most of his attention on the gun in the other party's hand. Did you notice? The little brother of the God Slayer? Black Goo reminded with a smile. That's the most powerful divine weapon of annihilation, True Longinus. True Longinus. Calling it that might not be enough to know how famous this gun was, but if one mentioned its other name in the Bible, then one would know why it was the strongest God-slayer tool. The Spear of Longinus. The holy gun that once assassinated Jesus, in this world, referred to as True Longinus. It was an absolute artifact that could even pierce through God. It was the synonym of a true God-slayer tool. It was also the original God-slayer tool. Even the definition of Longinus was derived from its name. It was a holy relic that everyone knew. That was the true Longinus of dusk. Sure enough, the dangerous feeling that the gun gave Noah was completely genuine. Its dimension lost again, annihilation maker again, and now even the true Longinus has appeared? Noah said sarcastically. 3 of the 4 great divine artifacts, known as the most evil divine artifacts, have fallen into the hands of the Disaster Squad. And it seems that all of them are in the possession of the hero faction. This world is really doomed. Among all the 13 God Slayer tools, the 4 most powerful artifacts were known as the highest level of God Slayer tools. These 4 highest level God Slayer tools were True Longinus, Brilliant Thunder Prison, Zenith Tempest, Annihilation Maker, and Dimension Lost. According to the latest information, the second-ranked Zenith Tempest was on the Angel's side, and the remaining 3 had yet to be found. Who would have thought that the other three highest-level deities' destruction equipment that no mythical faction had been able to find so far had all appeared in the hands of the hero faction of the Team of Disaster? It was truly ironic. By the way, the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear and White Dragon Emperor's light wings, divine dividing, that sealed the two heavenly dragons were ranked 6th and 7th respectively. As for the Holy Spear, he was truly number 1. Aside from the Holy Spear, Cao Cao's strength should not be underestimated either, He Gu said, intentionally or unintentionally. After all, even Wally had no choice but to use Tyrannosaurus against this hero's descendant. Wally used Tyrannosaurus on Cao Cao. Noah was surprised. Really? It's true, Lu Fei answered Noah nervously. Captain once said that among all the opponents he had ever encountered, in terms of human strength, Cao Cao was the strongest after you. Oh? The strongest human? Cao Cao suddenly laughed. That's a good evaluation, but is that an evaluation after excluding the God Slayer over there? Cao Cao once again looked at Noah. His eyes were surging with the same joy that only belonged to battle maniacs like Wally. It seems that Wally thinks that you are stronger than me. Let me test it out a little. After saying that, Cao Cao raised the holy spear in his hand and aimed it at Noah's direction. Wang! A burst of bright flames fluctuated from the tip of the holy spear, causing the surrounding air to vibrate. The flames were solemn and sacred, giving people a suffocating feeling as if their bodies were tightly strangled. Seeing that the holy flames at the tip of the holy spear began to expand, Noah, He Gu, and Fenrir reacted at the same time. Fenrir directly bit onto Lu Fei's cloak, who did not react in time. Then, Noah, He Gu, and Fenrir fled in different directions. At the same time, the holy flames at the tip of the holy spear suddenly exploded, turning into a huge beam of light, shooting out like a meteor and heavily landing at the original location of Noah's group. Dong! The power of the strongest god-slaying tool exploded the entire ground like a nuclear bomb, causing the surrounding rubble, gravel, and even buildings to be drawn in, causing intense flames and shockwaves. In an instant, everything within a few hundred meters was covered, wreaking havoc crazily. In the flames and shockwaves, Noah's arms and legs flashed with magic patterns as he flashed out like a phantom. However, in the next second, Noah's eyes narrowed, and without any hesitation, he turned around and fled to the side. Almost at the same time, a holy spear fluctuating with holy flames swept out from the flames and shockwaves in front, piercing at the original location of Noah with a faint sound of breaking through the air. And in the flames and shockwaves, Cao Cao's figure holding the holy spear gradually appeared. Dodged. Failing to hit, Cao Cao did not advance rashly, but instead took a big step back. However, if the other party wanted to retreat, he would have to ask Noah if he agreed. Although the holy spear was indeed a threat, but like Fenrir's fangs, as long as he was not hit, it was not a big deal. Moreover, Noah, who had some attainments in swordsmanship, knew that compared to swords and sabers, the spear had more advantages in battle because its body was longer than swords and sabers. However, it was more difficult to use than swords and sabers, and its trajectory was easier to see through. Therefore, at the moment when Cao Cao retreated, Noah suddenly stopped, and with the strength of his strengthened legs, he stepped forward with a momentum that could crush the earth. As a result, Cao Cao, who was retreating, suddenly stopped and laughed. I knew you would definitely attack. With such a sentence, before Noah stepped forward, the holy spear in Cao Cao's hand had already slashed out. Like a laser, it turned into a flash of sudden thrust, and violently pierced in the direction of Noah. That was a reaction that could only be made when the opponent's action was predicted. No, it should be said that it was a prediction. Cao Cao made a bold prediction that Noah would violently pursue him at the moment he retreated. Therefore, at the same time when Noah moved, he released a flash of high-speed thrust. Under such circumstances, Noah, who had already closed in, had no time to stop at all. It was as though he was flying toward the tip of the god-slaying holy spear like a moth darting into a flame. The tip of the spear instantly reached his throat. If this continued, it would only take a second for Noah's throat to be pierced. At the critical moment, Noah suddenly clenched his fist, and without stopping, he punched the ground. Bang! A violent shockwave suddenly burst out, shattering the entire ground. Gravel was lifted into the air, and mixed with the strong wind, it directly exploded in all directions. What? Chow Chow did not expect Noah to be able to do such a ridiculous thing. He did not even have time to withdraw his spear, and the foothold was directly shattered. Chow Chow, who stepped on a piece of ground, was bounced into the air together with the piece of ground. Then, the gravel and the violent shock wave that filled the sky flew in all directions. Only then did Chow Chow react. Not only was he not shocked, but he showed an extremely happy smile. Very good. This is what makes it interesting. After saying that, Chow Chow simply stood on the flying gravel, raised the holy spear in his hand, and pointed it in the direction of the ground. The next moment, the holy flame once again fluctuated on the holy spear, and one after another, it turned into a beam of sniping, and slanted down like raindrops. Naturally, Noah would not dodge the attack of the holy spear that could kill a god. Relying on his superb sensing ability, he accurately grasped the trajectory of each flash, as if he was shuttling through a storm. His footsteps continuously tapped, and like a phantom, he dodged the incoming flashes one by one. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of the flashes exploding the ground continued to resound. Chapter 1874. Pang, 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 pang. Flashes of light poured down from the sky, ravaging the ground, causing it to explode and shatter. Waves of shockwaves and flying dust were stirred up, causing the already dilapidated streets to be shrouded in artillery fire, completely turning them into ruins. Every flash of light carried the divine power of the god-killing holy spear. If demons and other existences that viewed divine attacks as highly toxic were treated like this, they would only need to be hit by one of the flashes to destroy them. This was the power of the holy spear that could even kill gods. Although Noah was very strong, his body was still in the category of humans. Once he was hit, he would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. Therefore, Noah relied on his superb sensing ability and ran like a phantom in the storm like flashes, dodging each and every one of the holy flashes. At the same time, while dodging the holy flashes' shots, Noah raised a hand in a certain direction ahead. Clang! A deep-colored magic square suddenly rotated in front of Noah's palm, gathering an astonishing amount of magic power. Sensing Noah's action, Chow Chow, who was in mid-air and standing on the flying debris, was stunned at first, then he became speechless. This was because although Noah's magic square was not aimed at him in mid-air, it was aimed at the direction where the debris he was standing on was about to fall. If Chow Chow continued to stand on the debris and fall with the debris, it would be the same as Noah's. It would be equivalent to him being hit by the opponent's attack. Are you planning to give me a taste of my own medicine? Noah Dole. Chow Chow shouted as he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, leaping high and leaving the debris he was standing on. In the next moment, a beam of magic power burst out from the magic square, turning into a huge flash of light, flashing through space and sweeping straight ahead. Coincidentally, the debris Chow Chow was standing on a second ago followed the gravity to that spot. Pang! The beam of magic power hit the debris directly, causing a violent explosion. Above the explosion point, Chow Chow's figure turned into an arrow that left the bow as if riding the wind, swooping down toward Noah who was standing on the ground. Chi, 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 chi. The god-slaying holy spear suddenly thrust forward, turning into flashes of light that enveloped Noah below. That lightning-fast thrust was almost as fast as Noah's first form of the absolute sword skill, purple lightning. Noah's expression finally turned solemn in the face of these 4 lightning-fast thrusts. Although Chow Chow's thrusts were not as fast as the purple lightning, they were different from the absolute sword skill. Chow Chow's thrusts were completely dependent on his own skills, unlike the absolute sword skill which was combined with Shenwei. The stronger the Shenwei, the stronger the power. If he didn't train his skills to the extreme, it would be impossible to achieve such a fast thrust. Noah could tell. Compared to himself, Chow Chow was the complete opposite. Noah's battle was basically based on the power he obtained from various worlds. Chow Chow, on the other hand, did not rely on any power other than the god-slaying holy spear. He only relied on his own skills to fight. This kind of fighting style could not be achieved without a firm goal and willpower, as well as painstaking research and training. In other words, Chow Chow was a super skill-based fighting expert. In terms of martial arts, Chow Chow might be a lot weaker than Luo Hao. However, he relied on his ever-changing responsibility and the holy spear that could kill gods. He was evaluated by Wally as the strongest human existence besides Noah. He was definitely not weaker than the Demon King. Watching Chow Chow's battle, anyone would have the same thought. This was the fighting style that humans should have. Not relying on innate power, but relying on acquired effort and constant thinking to fight. This was the power that the descendants of the heroes and brave people who ruled the heroes sect possessed. Relying on this power, Chow Chow let Wally, who inherited the power of the Demon King and the Sky Dragon, use the Tyrannosaurus Rex. In that case, Noah stared at the 4 lightning-fast thrusts, his body surging with amazing magical power. I will also be a little more serious here. After saying that, Noah raised his hand. Clang! A red light flickered and turned into a ferocious dragon-claw-like gauntlet, covering Noah's arm. Boost! Along with the sound, a powerful force burst out from Noah's body. Transfer. In the next moment, the powerful force turned into a torrent and poured into Noah's limbs. At this moment, Noah directly transferred the doubled power to the strengthening magic that he was using, doubling the effect of the strengthening magic. The magical lines that covered Noah's limbs suddenly became brighter. That is, Chow Chow's expression suddenly changed. However, at this moment, Noah had already tightened his body. Like a rocket soaring into the sky, he created a burst of wind and shot toward Chow Chow, who was diving down. Whoosh! The fist that was covered by the red gauntlet carried a whistling wind. Under a burst of sonic boom, it blasted toward the 4 streaks of spear light that were coming at him at lightning speed. Clang! In the crisp sound of steel colliding with steel, the 4 streaks of spear light directly collapsed. The holy spear that killed the god was fiercely bounced away, causing Chow Chow's posture to collapse. Oh no! Chow Chow's face was full of shock. Without thinking, he fiercely held the holy spear in front of him. At the same time, the red gauntlet that carried a violent force came violently, shaking the air. Under the entanglement of the chaotic airflow, it heavily smashed on the holy spear. Boom! A muffled thunder-like sound resounded. Whoosh! In mid-air, Chow Chow was sent flying with his spear. Like a meteorite, he fiercely hit the ground in the sharp sound of breaking the air. Bang! In an instant, dust flew, and thick sand filled the air. Carried by a gust of wind, it blew in all directions. When the flying sand settled down, Noah, who was suspended in mid-air, saw the situation inside clearly. There, Chow Chow was half-squatting on the ground. The holy spear in his hand was planted on the ground, supporting his body. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Looking at this scene, Noah narrowed his eyes. At the last moment, he removed the force and reduced the damage by a lot. If not, with Chow Chow's superb skills, it was absolutely impossible for him to be unscathed after being hit by Noah's superpower that had been multiplied. After all, Chow Chow was just a human. His body's endurance and toughness did not allow him to withstand an attack that could split mountains and rocks. In other words, Chow Chow's only weakness was his defense. In a battle with Chow Chow, whether it was the enemy or himself, both sides could only withstand one blow. Either the opponent was pierced by the holy spear that killed the god and was defeated, or Chow Chow was hit by the enemy's attack and lost the ability to fight. So, the conditions were the same. The moment he understood that Chow Chow was a superb skillful player, Noah saw through this weakness and used his superpower, enhanced magic, and overwhelming strength to defeat Chow Chow. Have you seen through my weakness? Chow Chow raised his head and looked at Noah with eyes full of crazy joy. That's right. That's how humans fight. Look for the weakness of an opponent who is far stronger than you, and then use a fatal blow to achieve victory. That's how the heroes and warriors of the past defeated dragons, demon kings, and evil monsters. In terms of physical strength, humans are born weaker than demons and monsters. In terms of strength, humans are born without any mystery. We can only rely on our own wisdom. We can constantly think of ways to achieve victory and then implement them. This is what humans are, and this is what we are. Chow Chow used the holy spear to support his body and stood up. He stared at Noah with a burning gaze. God Slayer, you are a human. You should be on our side. You shouldn't be on the same side as a group of demons, angels, and fallen angels. They are the aliens that are destined to be defeated by us humans. Come with me. Chow Chow reached out his hand to Noah. Let those mythical beings who are countless times stronger than humans see the power of humans. Chapter 1875. Chow Chow's impassioned words echoed in the air and did not calm down for a long time. However, Noah understood Chow Chow's meaning almost immediately. Chow Chow extended an olive branch to Noah. This descendant of the heroes wanted to recruit Noah and let Noah join the disaster squad and the heroes sect. Noah fell silent. However, Noah's eyes were still fixed on Chow Chow. After a long while, he said, "Let's go." After a while, he said, "Chow Chow, why did you join the disaster squad and lead the heroes sect?" Noah's words stunned Chow Chow. Obviously, Chow Chow did not expect Noah to ask such a question at this time. However, Chow Chow reacted quickly and spoke without hiding anything. "I want to know where the limits of humans lie." "The limits of humans?" Noah frowned. "What do you mean?" "It means literally." Chow Chow wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, raised the holy spear in his hand, and carried it on his shoulder. Everyone knows that compared to those demons, angels, fallen angels, monsters, and even gods that only exist in legends, we humans are too weak. We are not born with magic like demons, nor are we born with the power of light like angels and fallen angels. Chow Chow sighed. Compared to those monsters in legends, we do not have strong physiques and bodies. Compared to those gods, we are as weak as ants. If humans want to become stronger, there is only one way, and that is to work hard. Chow Chow clenched his fists. Just like mages, if they want to surpass humans, they have to learn how to analyze the magic of demons. The power of the exorcists of the churches comes from the holy sword, holy water, and the blessings of heaven. If humans rely on their own conditions, they will not be able to become stronger. At least, they will not be able to compare to those supernatural creatures that do not appear in daily life. They can only become stronger through unremitting efforts. And such a race, since ancient times, still gave birth to many heroes and warriors who were able to defeat the legendary creatures. Chow Chow continued to narrate as if he was talking to himself. A weak race is able to give birth to individuals that are superior to other creatures through hard work. If that's the case, what can I achieve in the end if I continue this training and hard work? Would they be able to annihilate the evil monsters like their ancestors? Or to achieve the unprecedented feat of killing a god? So, I want to know what a hero is, what a human is, and what kind of limit a weak race like ours can reach in the end. Chow Chow looked at Noah, his eyes burning with a strong determination. It was to explore all of this that I joined the Calamity Squad and became enemies with the various mythical forces. Because only by doing so could I prove how far humans can go compared to the races of the various mythical forces. So far, with this spear in my hand, I have defeated many existences. But even with this holy spear, which is known as the strongest god's destruction weapon, I still don't have the confidence to succeed in killing a god. Chow Chow's eyes on Noah became burning. Under such circumstances, a human who claimed to have killed a god suddenly appeared. Do you know how excited I was at that time? Noah could feel that Chow Chow's mood was indeed quite excited. The words of this descendant of a hero were filled with an unimaginable determination. Therefore, Noah understood. This man really only lived to explore the meaning of the existence of heroes and humans and the ultimate limit of their existence. However, Noah met Chow Chow's burning gaze, but his heart was like an ancient well without ripples. Just because of this? Noah asked. Just because of this, you didn't hesitate to cause serious casualties to the lives of the other forces? Is there a problem? Chow Chow said matter-of-factly. Anyway, those creatures are destined to be destroyed by us humans in all kinds of myths, aren't they? In one sentence, he successfully exposed Chow Chow's psychological flaw. Hey, Chow Chow, Noah said faintly. In your heart, the so-called hero is a warrior who must destroy all kinds of demons, demon kings, and demon dragons, right? What? Chow Chow asked curiously. Isn't it? That's right. Noah murmured. Then, he stared at Chow Chow coldly. Then, you really can't be a hero. Chow Chow's expression changed. Noah clenched his fist that covered the gauntlet. Boost. The surging power shook the gauntlet and turned into a torrent that flowed into Noah's body. Transfer. The torrent of power once again poured into Noah's limbs and turned into food for the electric lines of magical power. The effect of Noah's strengthening magic suddenly multiplied, giving Noah incredible power. Seeing this, Chow Chow understood. Noah disdained to be on his side. In the next second, Noah shook the void and rushed toward Chow Chow like a meteor. However, Chow Chow had already noticed that Noah didn't want to talk nonsense with him. Before that, he raised the holy spear in his hand. Clang! Holy light burst out from the holy spear and surged in all directions like waves. The strong light directly took away Noah's vision, causing him to close his eyes involuntarily. He abruptly stopped in the midst of rushing forward. Then, Chow Chow's voice came into Noah's ears. It seems that you don't agree with my philosophy. Fine, since that's the case, let's see who is the real hero between the two of us. I'll be waiting for you in a corner of this alternate space. Your students are also in my hands. If you want to save them, then come find me. After leaving behind such a sentence, the strong light that covered the entire space gradually faded away. Only then did Noah open his eyes. However, Chow Chow's figure had already disappeared without a trace. Looking at the place where Chow Chow disappeared, Noah muttered to himself. Chow Chow, on one side was a human who could kill gods. On the other side was a descendant of an ancient hero. This was the beginning of the battle between humans, and the curtains were gradually raised. On the other side, Chow Chow returned to the hero's sex base camp. Siegfried, who was wiping a sword, looked at Chow Chow, who walked in with his clothes covered in dust and a faint trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. He raised his eyebrows slightly. Why are you in such a sorry state? Can't help it. Chow Chow smiled indifferently. My opponent is in existence who can kill gods. Moreover, he has a dragon residing in his body. Even if it's me, it's natural for me to be forced to this extent. Is that so? The corner of Siegfried's mouth rose. It seems that you are very satisfied with your opponent this time. It's not a matter of satisfaction, Siegfried. Chow Chow narrowed his eyes, which were surging with emotions. My opponent this time is really too good. He's so good that any battle maniac would not hesitate to risk his life in a fight with him. Oh. Siegfried was surprised. You weren't even this excited when you faced Wally. Is that Noah Doria really that strong? Very strong. Chow Chow said solemnly. Without using a divine artifact, he was already not weaker than me. After using a divine artifact, he suppressed me directly. I was completely at a disadvantage when fighting him. Is he that strong? Siegfried's eyes lit up, and he was a little restless. This is the first time I've seen you give a person such a high evaluation. A god slayer. Even I want to fight him. There will be a chance. Chow Chow shrugged, then turned his head and looked ahead. There, magic squares were suspended in midair. Within those magic squares, people wearing the uniforms of the Foal King Academy were sucked into the magic squares like Jesus nailed to a cross. It was none other than Leah's and the other Jumanli family members. "Hurry up and come to me, Noah Doria," Chow Chow muttered. "I can't wait to fight with you again." Chapter 1876. So handsome meow. When Noah fell from midair and landed on the ground, Black Song jumped out from an unknown corner and hugged Noah fiercely. Suddenly, the touch and softness of her voluptuous body assaulted Noah's entire body. A fragrance that did not belong to a cat also burrowed into the tip of Noah's nose, causing Noah to jump in fright. To be able to force Chow Chow away so easily, you really are worthy of being a strong opponent that my captain has set his eyes on. Meow. Black Song's arms wrapped around Noah's neck, and her eyes that looked at Noah fluctuated with a charming expression. However, if even Orpheus can fight to a certain extent, it doesn't seem strange that little brother God Slayer can defeat Chow Chow. "So, what are you so excited about?" Noah narrowed his eyes and said snappily. "Or do you have some enmity with Chow Chow?" "That's not it," Black Song said frankly. "But seeing the handsome side of little brother God Slayer, my heart is thumping. If you don't believe me, you can touch it." As she said that, Black Song really took Noah's hand and smiled as she pressed Noah's hand on her voluptuous bosom. Noah, who had not expected Black Song to actually do such a thing, was stunned. When the texture of the fabric and the voluptuous softness fell into his palm, he quivered and quickly withdrew his hand. "What are you doing?" Noah flew into a rage out of humiliation. "Don't tell me you're also in heat like a kitten." Meow. Black Song blinked her eyes. "So Bai-in has entered the estrus period? You've done it? It's none of your business." Noah said bluntly. "Get away from me." As he said that, Noah intended to push Black Song away. It was a pity that Noah's strength was no match for the Nikomata clan's cat spirit without the use of magic or artifact to strengthen himself. He was unable to push Black Song away. Not only that, but Black Song was even more insatiable. He snuggled his entire body into Noah's embrace. His tail wrapped around Noah's waist and wrapped around Noah's waist. "You can't just dote on Bai-in, right?" Black Song extended a hand and caressed Noah's cheek as if she was caressing him. Her expression became bright and moving. "Give me some of your love too. If I can give birth to your child, the God Slayer and Red Dragon Emperor, that would be great." Meow. He had to admit that this black cat's teasing skills were frighteningly high. He snuggled tightly against Noah's body. His body was so soft that Noah could feel his body heat through his clothes. The cat's tail wrapped around his waist was like an itch, constantly rubbing against him. Noah felt his spine begin to go numb. His hot breath directly hit Noah's ears, causing Noah's heartbeat to involuntarily speed up. Noah felt that if this continued, he might really fall for this cat's teasing. He took a deep breath. Dong! A loud knocking sound rang out. Meow. Black Song held his head and squatted down with tears in his eyes. "Don't go too far." Noah sighed as he retracted his hand from Black Ge's head. "You don't even think about the situation you're in, and you don't even think about where you are right now. You're in heat so casually. Why does little cat have a sister like you? What does that have to do with anything?" Black Song protested. "It's normal for cats to be a little perverted." Meow. "Then please don't tempt me." Noah rolled his eyes at Black Song. "No matter what, I'm still your sister's teacher." "It's okay." Black Song winked at Noah. "I don't mind having a pair of sisters with Bai-in." Meow. A pair of sisters. Noah couldn't help but think of the situation when he had sex with his two delicate wives. Meow. Black Song blinked his eyes again and laughed mischievously. "Little brother God Slayer? Are you moved by it? You're almost drooling. WH. What? Noah almost subconsciously wiped the corner of his mouth, but he didn't manage to wipe anything. Only then did Noah realize what was going on. He had been deceived. Pfft. Black Song couldn't help but laugh out loud. Meow meow meow, I didn't think little brother God Slayer would be so fun, meow. It wasn't just Black Song. Even Luffy, who had come over at some point, was secretly laughing with a red face. As for Fenrir, who was standing beside Luffy, when he looked at Noah, his eyes were no longer cold and vigilant. Instead, there was only contempt and disdain. Noah suddenly had the urge to find a hole and hide in it. He looked at Black Song, who was squatting in front of him, and raised his hand angrily. Meow meow. Black Song jumped in fright and hurriedly hugged his head. Okay, meow. I won't laugh anymore, meow. This silly cat didn't hesitate to act cute. He even hugged his head and squatted down. Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At that moment, Black Song raised his head and looked at Noah. The smile on his face didn't fade, but his tone changed. What do you think of Chow Chow? Very strong, Noah said sincerely. No wonder even Wally had to use T-Rex against him. This was the truth. Chow Chow himself was already an extremely skilled combat expert. In addition to the power of the Holy Spear, which could even kill gods, Noah didn't have the confidence to defeat him if he didn't use his artifact and elven device. Just now, if Noah didn't use his artifact, it would have taken him a lot of effort to defeat Chow Chow. The strength displayed by the descendant of the Wei Kingdom at the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty was at the peak of the 5-digit level. He was definitely not inferior to the Demon King. Moreover, that wasn't Chow Chow's full strength. Under normal circumstances, Chow Chow's Holy Spear is already capable of unleashing such a level of power when paired with his superb techniques. If Chow Chow has already reached the forbidden level, then it's no wonder Wally needed to use Tyrannosaurus on him. Noah looked at Black Song. You're not going to tell me that Chow Chow won't use Forbidden Hand, right? Chow Chow will use Forbidden Hand, Black Song said with a smile. And it's a very tricky Forbidden Hand. Wally had no choice but to use T-Rex after Chow Chow used Forbidden Hand. In addition to the god-killing Holy Spear, if Chow Chow really wants to kill a god like Loki should be able to succeed. Meow, in this case, Chow Chow's full strength should be at the 4-digit level. Although I don't think the Godslayer will lose to Chow Chow, it's best to be careful. Black Song snuggled into Noah's arms and whispered again. That guy is a human after all. He highly values the theory of weakness. Perhaps, after the battle just now, Chow Chow has found your weakness. Meow, weakness? Noah ignored Black Song's affectionate gesture and slowly curved the corner of his mouth. Then I'll wait and see. After all, Chow Chow wasn't the only one who didn't use his full strength. According to Chow Chow, Leah's and the others should have all fallen into his hands. Noah turned his gaze to Black Song and Luffy. Do you have a way to help me find them? Black Song was a cat elf who could use immortal spells. Immortal spells could be used to search for the chi of nature. If Black Song used immortal spells, he might be able to find the chi of Leah's and the others, or even the chi of the heroes. As for Luffy, Noah didn't know how strong this girl was, but if she could join Wally's team, it was enough to prove that Luffy's strength was not ordinary. A powerful sorcerer might have a way to find people. In response, Black Song just shook his head. I don't feel the chi of Baiin and the others, nor do I feel the chi of the heroes. It should be a matter of distance. I might be able to find your companions, my lord. Luffy raised her hand weakly. But I need some time. Then I'll leave it to you. Noah nodded at Luffy. I'll repay you for this favor in the future. No. No need. Luffy quickly shook her head and waved her hand. Then, she coughed and put on a serious face. Then, I'll begin. Having said that, Luffy raised the broom in her hand and drew a magic square on the ground. Noah, Black Song, and Fenrir all retreated to the side and watched Luffy. Chapter 1877. Clang. A dazzling light bloomed in the magic array. The outline of the magic array carved on the ground shone brightly, illuminating the surroundings. Under such circumstances, Luffy stood in the center of the magic array, holding the broom in her hand. Her pink little mouth was mumbling something, as if she was chanting some kind of incantation. Not long after, small balls of light, like fairies, slowly emerged from the magic array. They circled around Luffy's body before dispersing and flying in all directions. Noah, Black Song, and Fenrir quietly waited at the side, watching Luffy bathed in the light of the magic array. They all chose to wait in silence. However, during the waiting process, the human, wolf, and cat's reactions were completely different. Noah kept his eyes on Luffy, who was in the magic array, and remained silent. Black Song's face showed some impatience, as if he was very impatient. He even yawned. As for Fenrir, the most ferocious demon wolf in Norse mythology, he was already lying on the ground, taking a nap. Obviously, Haegu and Fenrir both believed that Luffy would have to spend quite a bit of time to find her target. However, that was to be expected. If this alternate dimension was a complete replica of Chariot King Town, it would take a lot of time to explore every nook and cranny of the place. If she was lucky, perhaps Luffy would find her target immediately. If she was unlucky, then she would have to wait for a long time. Noah had nothing to complain about. He could only wait quietly. Until a certain moment, the yawning Black Song's ears suddenly twitched. He covered his mouth with a happy expression. "Looks like our companions are here first, meow." Hearing this, Noah was startled at first, but then he understood Black Song's meaning. He turned his head and looked in a certain direction. Almost at the same time, a teleportation magic array flashed not far in front of Noah, Black Song, and Fenrir. In the magic array, 3 figures appeared together with the light, imprinting themselves into Noah's eyes. They were 3 young men of similar age. The one on the left was a young man who was carrying a staff. He wore armor that resembled that of a general and had a refreshing face. However, he looked like a humanoid monkey. On the right was a swordsman wearing a suit and glasses. He had a knight's sword on his waist that was emitting holy waves. He looked like an elegant gentleman. Standing between the two of them was the White Dragon Emperor who had inherited Lucifer's bloodline. Noah's and Wally's eyes met almost at the same time. "You really are here," Wally said without any surprise. "The moment Monkey said he sensed your key, I knew you were here. Little brother God Slayer, your aura is very special." "I have a deep impression of it as well." The young man with the staff laughed heartily and even greeted Noah. "We meet again, little brother God Slayer." "When Wally handed Orpheus over to you, I was hiding by the side. You should have noticed me, so this should be the second time we meet. My name is Beautiful Monkey." "Nice to meet you." "Beautiful Monkey?" Noah's gaze turned to the other party, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. "A staff, a monkey-like appearance, and you're called Beautiful Monkey. Don't tell me you have something to do with the great sage, equal to heaven, Sun Wukong?" "Oh, it seems that little brother God Slayer also knows the old man." Beautiful Monkey touched his chin. "To be precise, the old man is no longer the great sage, equal to heaven, but the victorious fighting Buddha. As for me, I'm considered a monster like that guy's descendant." "Sun Wukong's descendant?" Noah was stunned. "This guy is the descendant of this world's Sun Wukong?" "No way." Noah couldn't help but murmur. "Can one get married and have children after becoming a Buddha?" Hearing Noah's murmur clearly, Beautiful Monkey was startled at first, then laughed loudly. "As expected of the God Slayer, you only noticed such an interesting thing. But, even if you say so, I don't know how to answer you. After all, the old man did become a Buddha. Maybe that guy fooled around outside before becoming a Buddha and left his bloodline behind?" Noah's mouth suddenly twitched. "Is it appropriate to say that about your ancestor?" The swordsman on the other side of Wukong also spoke. "I'm Arthur Pendragon, sir, you can call me Arthur." "Arthur?" Noah raised his eyebrows. There was indeed no clearer and easier to understand self-introduction than this. Arthur Pendragon was the king of knights in Celtic mythology and British legends. In other worlds, Noah had more than once come into contact with this legend. In the world of the shaped moon, Noah even came into contact with the person himself. In this world, since the swordsman introduced himself like this, there were only two possibilities. Either the swordsman in front of him was King Arthur. Either that, or he had inherited the name from his ancestor. I see. Noah glanced meaningfully at the sword at Arthur's waist that was emitting an unusually strong holy wave. The descendant of King Arthur of Great Britain? Yes. Arthur smiled slightly and pointed at Luffy, who had closed her eyes and concentrated in the magical array. By the way, the girl over there is my sister, who has the same bloodline as me. She also inherited the bloodline of the King of Knights. Moreover, everyone here is my teammate. Wukong suddenly smiled. Should be able to catch your eye? The God Slayer? More than just catch my eye. This is simply an all-star level lineup, right? The White Dragon Emperor, who inherited the bloodline of Lucifer. The highest level monster in the Nikomata clan. The descendant of Sun Wukong, the great sage equal to heaven. The heir of the King of Knights of Great Britain. The most ferocious god-slaying demonic wolf in Norse mythology. Wukong's team was spectacular to the point that others couldn't imagine. Therefore, the hero faction regarded Wukong's team as a strong opponent and didn't hesitate to attack at this time. In addition, Orpheus, Aster, and Athena might also be transferred here. Cao Cao was arrogant enough to deal with so many people at the same time. Even if the hero faction had 3 highest level gods destruction equipment, wasn't it too arrogant? Or, did Cao Cao have a trump card that could suppress this lineup? Noah had to think about it. At this moment, Wukong suddenly spoke. Have you fought with Cao Cao? Noah returned to his senses and looked at Wukong. Under Noah's gaze, Wukong asked. How do you feel? Very strong. Noah curled his lips and smiled. But, he went astray. As I said, he has some abnormal attachment to the identity of a human. Wukong's eyes flickered. In this world, there are only 3 humans who can make me use Tyrannosaurus. One is you, one is him, and the last one is the god's destruction equipment holder where I used to stay. The place where Wukong used to stay was naturally the fallen angel faction. This guy who inherited Lucifer's bloodline and the power of the White Dragon Emperor was brought up by Asher. And in the fallen angel faction, there was indeed a god's destruction equipment holder. That god's destruction equipment holder should have been in contact with Wukong for a long time, right? I didn't see your battle with Cao Cao. Wukong looked straight at Noah. But, I can guess that you haven't used your full strength yet, right? And then? Noah asked directly. What do you want to say? I want to say that guy's destruction equipment is also very troublesome, and if he didn't use his full strength, it can only be that he is testing you and trying to find your weakness. Wukong said. Cao Cao definitely knows about your battle with Orpheus. If you were to bring out that level of power, Cao Cao wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow from you. However, he might also know that the power you brought out at that time couldn't be used continuously. Using it would cause an extremely heavy burden. With this weakness, with Cao Cao's insight, it wouldn't be difficult to find a way to restrain you. In other words, Wukong was reminding Noah that it was best not to use the power he used when fighting Orpheus. Otherwise, not only would he fail, but he would also fall into a weakened state for nothing. Unfortunately, Wukong didn't know that Noah's authority was upgrading and couldn't be used. If Cao Cao really formulated a countermeasure against this, it would be useless. Moreover, the current Noah was no longer the Noah of that time. Noah had many trump cards that even Wukong didn't know about. Suddenly, Luffy's voice sounded. I found it. Chapter 1878. Not far from Chariot King Academy, there was a department store. It was the largest department store in Chariot King Town. It was famous for its variety of goods and lively activities during the holidays. During the holidays, the department store would become very lively. The customers could be said to be a sea of people, and it was very popular. This alternate dimension used Chariot King Town as a prototype and replicated the entire town. Of course, the department store not far from Chariot King Academy was also located here. It was almost identical to the department store in Chariot King Town. However, no one would think that this department store was the same as the one in Chariot King Town. Because, no matter the time, the department store would never be as lively as it was now. The surroundings were deserted, and it was so quiet that it was as if there was no sound. It was chilling. However, in front of the entrance of the department store, a few figures slowly appeared. Noah gazed at the department store that was also familiar to him. He turned his head and looked in Lu Fei's direction. Are the members of the Heroes sect really gathered here? Yes. Lu Fei nodded heavily. It's not just the members of the Heroes sect. Sir Noah's companions should also be inside. Is that so? Noah looked at the department store in front of him again and said. By the way, why did you guys come along? Except for Noah, everyone in Wally's team followed. Meow. The black cat tilted its head and said. Don't tell me you plan to go in alone. Hey, you're being a little unkind, Mr. God Slayer, the beautiful monkey shouted. We're all being picked on. If there's a fight, of course we have to fight together, right? We don't mean to hinder you. Arthur pushed the glasses on his face. It's just that, since the Heroes sect attacked us, we have no reason to not fight back. That's it. Wally shrugged. We don't want to compete with you, but since our enemies are all the same, we might as well act together. When we fight, we'll treat it as another matter. You guys really don't know your place. Noah curled his lips. However, since I've been attacked, there's no reason not to fight back. I quite agree with this sentence. After saying that, Noah and all the other members of Wally's team exchanged glances with each other before smiling at the same time. Although they weren't battle maniacs like Wally and the others, at this moment, Noah and the others all had the same thought. That was to teach the hero faction a painful lesson. With such an idea in mind, everyone was just about to step in when Noah suddenly sensed something and subconsciously called out. Wait! Everyone immediately stopped what they were doing. Noah, on the other hand, turned his head and looked in another direction. There, 3 petite figures slowly walked over as if they were taking a stroll. Seeing the 3 petite figures, Wally and the others were stunned. Noah's eyes lit up. He took a step forward and hurriedly spoke. Aster. Athena. Orpheus. Impressively, it was the 3 young girls who had a close relationship with Noah. The 3 girls also walked over and arrived in front of Noah. I finally found you. Athena, Aster, and Orpheus heaved a sigh of relief. She let out a bitter laugh, which was a rare sight. If you didn't appear, I'm afraid I would have to admit defeat. It seemed that Athena had suffered a lot during the time she spent alone with Aster and Orpheus, these 2 young girls who didn't know much about the world. It was the first time Noah saw such an expression on Athena's face. For a moment, it was extremely interesting. Master. Aster, on the other hand, held Noah's hand like a child who was about to receive candy. Although his face was still expressionless, his mysterious eyes were fixed on Noah. I have completed my mission very well and have been accompanying the dragon god over there. Is that so? Noah smiled and couldn't help but touch Aster's head. You have done very well, Aster. Master. Aster immediately revealed a comfortable expression and squinted her eyes slightly. Orpheus, on the other hand, looked at Noah for a while before turning his gaze to Varley. Varley also looked at Orpheus and was silent for a moment before speaking. It seems that you have been doing well. Orpheus gazed at Wally, nodded, and replied concisely. Not bad. Is that so? Varley's expression softened a little. He then turned his head away and didn't say anything else. Only Black Song looked at Aster and Athena curiously and tugged at Noah's sleeve. "Hey, little brother God Slayer, who are these two little girls to you? They seem a little similar to Bai-een. Perhaps?" Noah smiled. "But, to me, they are more important than kittens." Meow. Black Song's eyes spun around, and in the end, this sentence popped out. "In other words, they are your toys?" "I see." The corner of Noah's mouth twitched. "In your heart, kittens are no different from toys?" Meow haha. Black Song immediately laughed and turned his head away. No matter how one looked at him, he looked guilty. Noah sighed and ignored the cat that only knew how to act cute. He held Aster's hand and looked at Athena. "Were you transferred here as well?" "That's right." Athena nodded. 1 second, we were still in the room. The next second, we were covered by a fog. When we came back to our senses, we were already here. "What an interesting ability." "That's about what I expected," Noah asked. "Before meeting me, did you meet any enemies?" "It's just a bunch of monsters." "It's not worth mentioning," Athena said casually. "Also, we met a few people who called themselves heroes. But because the dragon god was also present, they didn't seem to want to fight us. They just asked us to come here, saying that we would meet you there." In other words, Aster, Athena, and Orpheus were all lured here. Moreover, they were sent by the heroes. Is Chow Chow's target really Orpheus? Wally's voice became low. It seems that the heroes are really going to attack Orpheus. What do you mean? Noah asked. Could it be that the heroes are going to harm Orpheus? That's right, Wally confirmed. Although Chow Chow didn't say it directly, I felt that he had been looking for ways to deal with the dragons. At first, I thought that he wanted to attack you and me. Later, I realized that Chow Chow wasn't just targeting the two heavenly dragons. He was also targeting the dragon god who was above the two heavenly dragons. No, it's not just the two heavenly dragons and the dragon god. Wally's eyes flashed. Maybe even the real Emperor God Red Dragon is his target, that's hard to say. The atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Noah took a deep breath and held Aster's and Athena's hands as he spoke calmly. Apologies, Aster, Athena, I'm going to barge in. Let's go. Athena held Noah's hand and her beautiful snake eyes rippled. I also want to see what the so-called hero's descendant is capable of. I am Master's sword. Aster's answer was even more concise. Everything will be as Master wishes. After saying that, the two elven girls closed their eyes and turned into light particles. At the same time, Noah converted all the magic flowing in his body into divine might. In the next moment, the silver holy sword and platinum divine blade appeared in Noah's hands. Seeing this, Wally, Hay, Monkey, Arthur, Luffy, and even Fenrir were shocked. However, at this moment, Noah suddenly stepped forward and raised the divine blade high. Clang! An extremely dazzling light suddenly blossomed from the platinum divine blade, turning into streaks of light that shot into the sky like meteors. Buzz! Amidst an ear-piercing buzzing sound, streaks of platinum light gathered together, gradually forming a platinum sun that resembled a small star, illuminating the entire space. Let's go. Noah's cold voice echoed. The platinum sun suddenly fell and landed on the magnificent building. Boom! The deafening sound turned into a sound wave that resounded through the sky. Chapter 1879. Dong! In an instant, the entire world trembled with such a deafening roar. The rapidly forming platinum sun was like a celestial body that fell from the sky. With the momentum of a meteorite crashing into the earth, it landed heavily in a corner of Chariot Town, setting off a shocking shockwave that spread out in a ring shape. Wherever the shockwave passed, the buildings began to shake violently. Cracks appeared on the walls as if they were ravaged by a passing typhoon. One side cracked, the other side collapsed, and gradually turned into ruins. At the center of the shockwave, the small sun that fell from the sky enveloped the department store, causing the skyscraper-like department store to gradually collapse, and be annihilated in the dazzling light. In the end, it disappeared without a trace. This scene lasted for an unknown period of time. It wasn't until an unknown amount of time had passed that the small sun that fell from the sky dimmed little by little. Its size also shrank until it disappeared. However, at the place where the small sun fell, there was a huge crater that made people shudder. That crater had a diameter of a few kilometers, like a huge meteorite crater. In the huge meteorite crater, the buildings disappeared, the ground disappeared, and even the streets and houses disappeared. All that was left were the rock formations and soil that were exposed to the air. As for a person, there was only one person left. That was Noah, who was holding the heavenly sword of salvation in one hand and the demon slayer in the other. Clang, the strong light that burst out from the divine sword began to recede. Noah slowly opened his eyes, and slowly lowered the divine sword that he held high and looked in front of him. Behind Noah, a piece of land slightly protruded and was lifted up. Inside, Wally and the others were looking at the scene in front of them in shock. It seemed that they had not recovered from the sudden destruction that just happened. Only Orpheus was still expressionless. He stood in front of Wally and the others and lowered his raised hand. Only then did Wally and the others react. "Were you the one who saved us?" Luffy asked Orpheus with lingering fear in her heart. Thank you. Luckily, Orpheus made a move. Otherwise, we would have had no choice but to escape. Black Song patted his plump chest, looking frightened. "Seriously, what is Mr. Godslayer doing, meow? Isn't this movement a bit too big?" The beautiful monkey couldn't help but let out an exaggerated cry. "Don't tell me that Godslayer wants to get rid of us as well. The most shocking thing is that sword." Arthur raised his eyes and stared closely at the divine blade in Noah's hand. For the first time, a look of interest appeared in his eyes. "That power just now, was it released by that sword? Is that a holy sword? And it's a mythical level tool? That guy is actually hiding such power?" Wally's eyes were also fixed on the holy sword and divine blade in Noah's hands. Chow Chow must be very surprised, right? As if he didn't hear the voice behind him, Noah only looked ahead and spoke abruptly. "It's time to come out, right? Or are you really only opponents of this level that can be dealt with?" As soon as he finished speaking, a teleportation magic array flashed in front of them. With Noah in the lead, everyone turned their eyes to the magic array. Immediately, the magic array opened like a door. From inside, people slowly walked out and appeared in front of Noah and the others. Those people all carried a very powerful aura. Obviously, those people in front of them were not ordinary powerhouses. Only after these people had walked out did the leader of the hero faction appear as though he had arrived late. He walked out of the door-like magic array. Looking at the huge crater that was a few kilometers in diameter, Chow Chow couldn't help but smile bitterly. Isn't it a bit too exaggerated to use such an attack as an opening? Aren't you one of the people who want to see my power? Noah curled his lips and smiled. If it's not at this level, you won't be satisfied, right? This is no longer the level of satisfaction, it's the level of shock. The bitterness on Chow Chow's face intensified. Your companions are in my hands, and they're with us. Aren't you afraid that the attack just now will kill them all? If you want them to die, you don't have to go through so much trouble to capture them all, Noah said calmly. Then, where are they now? Galgar, Chow Chow sighed and turned his gaze to a youth beside him. Where are they? Hearing this, the young man Chow Chow called Galgar raised his hand and a cloud of mist appeared out of nowhere in the air. This scene instantly attracted Noah's attention to the youth called Galgar. Is that the wielder of the Dimension Lost? As if to prove Noah's words, the white fog gathered under Galgar's control. Within the white fog, one figure after another appeared. Like Jesus nailed on the cross, all of the Jumanli's kin were floating in front of the magic circles. Everyone, including Lias, had their heads tilted as if they were asleep. Their faces were extremely peaceful. Noah narrowed his eyes slightly. Dark Song's eyes flickered as he looked at Kitten, who was also nailed on the magic circle. As for the others, they only glanced at the Jumanli's kin. Apart from Luffy, who looked a little worried, Wally, Beautiful Monkey, Arthur, and Fenrir all looked at Chow Chow as if nothing had happened. Chow Chow, Wally asked directly. What is your goal? Don't you know, Wally? Wally? Chow Chow raised the holy spear in his hand and tapped his shoulder. I want to challenge the limits of humans and live on as a hero. So, you want to challenge everyone here? Wally smiled disdainfully. Putting Orpheus aside, do you think you're a match for the two heavenly dragons? No, even I can't handle the two heavenly dragons at the same time. Whether it's you or that Godslayer over there, you're all much stronger than the Red Dragon Emperor and the White Dragon Emperor of the past. Chow Chow suddenly smiled. But, Wally, you should know me. I'm a human. Summing up useful information from past experience and using it to win in the end is what humans do. For example, Noah Doria, I know that you have the power to compete with Orpheus, but that power comes with a terrible burden and can only last for less than a few minutes. Chow Chow looked at Noah and Wally. Wally, it's the same for you. Your Tyrannosaurus Rex also comes with a great burden and can only last for less than a few minutes. Such a weakness is too useful. I only need to speed up the consumption, and whether it's the power comparable to the Dragon God or the Tyrannosaurus Rex, it will become a fatal element that will defeat you without a fight. Wally was speechless. He knew that this time, he could no longer use the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Only Noah remained unmoved. He looked at Chow Chow with eyes full of mockery. However, Chow Chow didn't see it. Orpheus. Chow Chow's eyes turned to Orpheus. I want to fight you too. Hearing Chow Chow's words, Orpheus finally raised his head and met Chow Chow's gaze. Then, Orpheus opened his mouth. Impossible. Chow Chow can't defeat me. I know. Even if I want to challenge the limits of human beings, it doesn't mean that I don't know my own limits. If I were to challenge the strongest dragon god in the world that even the various mythological forces can only fear, I would definitely be killed in an instant. Chow Chow shrugged and immediately changed the topic. There's no other way. I can only borrow a little external force, Galgar. Roger. Galgar stepped forward and his whole body vibrated with magic power. It wasn't the magic power of a demon but the magic power of a sorcerer. Galgar was a sorcerer. In the next moment, a huge magic array appeared on the ground under Galgar. Chapter 1880. Clang. A dazzling light shone from the huge magic array, instantly illuminating the entire space. Although the light wasn't as bright as the light of salvation from the divine saber, its scale was extremely large. Under the illumination of the light, everyone, including Noah, couldn't help but raise a hand in front of them, blocking the dazzling light from their palms. Immediately after, the light shining from the magic array turned into an ominous pitch-black color, blocking the surrounding light, causing the entire world to be engulfed in darkness in an instant, without a trace of light. At that moment, Noah felt it. In the flickering pitch-black light from the magic array, a wave of dark emotion fluctuated. What kind of emotion fluctuation was that? Pain. Resentment. Loathing. Curse. It was as if all the negative emotions in the world had appeared at that moment, turning into invisible waves that were continuously transmitted from the magic array. With his superb sensory ability, Noah was affected by the terrifying negative emotions by tens or hundreds of times, causing his heart to fiercely shrink. If it weren't for Noah's firm willpower and strong mental strength, he would have collapsed long ago under the influence of the terrifying negative emotions that were transmitted after being multiplied by dozens or hundreds of times. Although the others didn't have the same sensory ability as Noah, they all became solemn. What's going on? Black GE's delicate body began to tremble. There's a very strange aura appearing. What kind of aura is that? The beautiful monkey, who could also use immortal techniques, seemed to have felt it as well, and an unprecedentedly ugly expression appeared on his cheerful face. Arthur and Luffy had a solemn expression, while Luffy was somewhat flustered. Even Fenrir began to tighten his body as he growled. As for Varley, his pair of eyes fluctuated violently. What's going on? Varley stared at the magic array and gritted his teeth. There's a kind of fear that comes from the heart. In fact, the power within Noah's body fluctuated violently as well. Finally, it turned into a crimson light that covered Noah's arm, causing the sinister crimson hand to appear. "Partner, we're in big trouble." Drake's voice came from the jade on the hand. There was a slight tremble in his voice. "Although I don't know what Chow Chow is planning to do, the thing in the magic array is very bad. It's an overwhelming malice directed at the dragon." "Directed at the dragon?" Noah smacked his lips. "Is that Chow Chow's trump card?" As Noah smacked his lips, a huge figure slowly emerged from the magic array behind Galgar. Enveloped in pitch-black light and terrifying negative waves, it was imprinted in everyone's eyes. After seeing the full appearance of the huge figure, Noah and Wally's eyes suddenly shrank, and the rest of the people also trembled. It was a xenomorph whose entire body was tightly chained up by torture devices engraved with creepy, ancient words. Its upper body was humanoid, but it had pitch-black wings like a fallen angel. Its lower body was a dragon's tail that was covered in dragon scales. In other words, its upper body was that of a fallen angel, but its lower body was that of a dragon. However, this alien's 2 arms, 1 tail, and even its entire body were pierced by countless nails and nailed to a huge cross. It looked like the incarnation of the world's greatest sin, causing everyone to tremble in fear. "That's..." Luffy cried out in horror. "What's that?" No one answered Luffy's question. This was because everyone's attention had been captured by that terrifying xenomorph. At this moment, the alien slowly raised its head. No one could see its appearance clearly. An eye-patch-like torture device covered the alien's eyes. Tears of blood flowed out from within, dyeing the alien's entire face red. It was impossible to see its actual appearance. Then, the alien opened its mouth. Woo-woo-woo-woo, a sound that sounded like the wail of an evil spirit reverberated in the air. It was the sound of pain, resentment, loathing, cursing, and other negative emotions fused together. That voice made Noah's gauntlet and Wally's light wings tremble fiercely. The fear from Drake and Arubian passed into the hearts of Noah and Wally through the artifact. Under such circumstances, the divine blade in Noah's hand actually began to tremble. "My dragon snake body is trembling." Athena's voice rang in Noah's mind. "It can even affect me, who has already abandoned my dragon snake body. Noah Doria, you have to be careful. That thing is really bad for dragon snakes." Even Athena warned Noah and called him by his full name. It was easy to imagine how dangerous that strange thing was for a dragon. Noah directly cast a sharp gaze on Chow Chow. His grip on the holy sword and divine blade tightened. "It seems that I can't let you continue like this." As soon as he finished speaking, Noah suddenly raised the divine saber and poured his divine power into it, causing the divine saber's body to begin to burst out with intense lightning. However, Chow Chow seemed to have already expected Noah's actions. He raised the holy spear in his hand and pointed it at the Jumanli's followers in the air. "I knew it. If it were you, you wouldn't be like Wally and the others. You wouldn't subconsciously choose to continue watching the situation in order to make the battle more exciting. You're not the kind of person who would sit back and watch the situation transition in an unfavorable direction. That's why I captured the Jumanli's followers." After saying that, Chow Chow raised the holy spear high up in the air and said to Noah with a faint smile, "Do you want to compete with me? Let's see if your attack will land on us first, or if my attack will land on the Jumanli's followers first." Upon hearing that, Noah's hand paused and a sharp glint finally appeared in his eyes when he looked at Chow Chow. "Oh? Are you angry?" Chow Chow was not surprised. However, the best part is yet to come. After saying that, Chow Chow snapped his fingers. Wang! Orpheus, who had been watching quietly, suddenly emitted a dark mist. Under the tremors in the air, it turned into a dark sphere, and covered Orpheus' petite body. Orpheus. Black Song and Luffy, who were closest to Orpheus, exclaimed. Noah and Wally, who were standing at the front, turned their heads abruptly and looked in Orpheus' direction. They saw a tentacle-like pipe on the pitch-black sphere that covered Orpheus. It directly connected to the xenomorph's body and connected to the mouth of the xenomorph. It was as if the xenomorph had extended its tongue and connected it directly to the pitch-black sphere that covered Orpheus. Moreover, the tongue was like a blood vessel, constantly pulsing as if it was transmitting something. It was continuously transmitting something from the pitch-black sphere to the half-human, half-dragon xenomorph. Obviously, the xenomorph was absorbing something from Orpheus' body. Don't even think about it. Noah and Wally raised their hands almost at the same time. A magic array flashed in front of their palms, and an astonishing amount of mana gathered in it. A magical light beam and a magical lightning bolt suddenly shot out from the magic array in Noah and Wally's hands. They streaked across space and landed on the blood vessel-like tongue. However, the moment the light beam and the lightning struck, there was a strange, chi sound. It was as if the light beam was being melted and eroded bit by bit. WH. Wally's expression changed. It's useless. Chow Chow laughed. As long as the pipe is connected, no one can interrupt it, including Orpheus. However, while Chow Chow was feeling smug, Noah dashed directly toward Orpheus. Avesta, activate. Counteracted in turn. Simulate the star atlas, another cosmology. Dazzling starlight bloomed on Noah's body. Chapter 1881. Clang. Dazzling starlight burst out from Noah's body, illuminating his entire body as if there was a Milky Way lingering around him. Carrying the dazzling starlight, Noah crashed into the black sphere that enveloped Orpheus, much to Chow Chow's and Wally's surprise. Idiot. Chow Chow couldn't help but shout. Samuel's power can not only erase all attacks, but it also has the ultimate dragon kill ability. You are the current Red Dragon Emperor, so you naturally have the dragon attribute. How stupid of you to go against Samuel's power. As soon as Chow Chow said that, the scene that appeared in front of him in the next second made him turn pale with fright. Wang. Noah crashed into the pitch-black sphere like a meteor, and starlight surged all over his body, melting the pitch-black sphere bit by bit. Impossible. Chow Chow cried out. Not to mention Chow Chow, even the members of the hero faction who followed Chow Chow had a drastic change in expression as they cried out one after another. No way. How is this possible? The ultimate dragon kill ability, a power that even the infinite dragon god couldn't do anything about, was broken by the successor of the two heavenly dragons? That's impossible. Unfortunately, no matter how shocked they were, what happened in front of them was the absolute truth. Bang! Under the suppression of the sparkling starlight, the pitch-black sphere suddenly exploded, turning into a pitch-black mist and dissipating. In the black fog, Orpheus closed his eyes and floated in the air. The moment the black fog dissipated, he fell to the ground. Noah hugged Orpheus and landed on the ground. Orpheus. Noah lowered his head and looked at the petite girl in his arms. How are you? At Noah's call, Orpheus' eyelids moved and he slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were still as deep as the night, and his expression didn't change at all. There wasn't even a scar on his body. He looked normal. Noah couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief in his heart. However, at this moment, Orpheus raised his little hand and stared at it for a while. Then, he lifted his head from Noah's arms and looked at Chow Chow. You took away my power. Hearing Orpheus's words, everyone's expression changed. Chow Chow reacted and looked deeply at Noah. He didn't answer Orpheus' question, but instead, he said to Galg. How much of Orpheus' power did you absorb? It's a lot less than we expected. Galger bit his lip. Only about half of it? Half. Chow nodded calmly. Although it's less than what we expected, half of the infinite dragon god's power is enough. So that's how it is. Varley took a step forward, his eyes becoming sharp. Is taking away Orpheus's power your goal? I can't help it, Wally. Although Orpheus is terrifyingly strong, she isn't interested in anything. The only thing that can interest her is the real red dragon god emperor. Even though she seems to be interested in Noah Dole recently, that's because she wants to defeat the real red dragon god emperor, right? Chow Chow sighed. It's too difficult to control such a leader who has no desires and no one knows what she's thinking all day long. Just like this time, Orpheus ran to the side of the god slayer and completely ignored us. That's why I've been planning this since a long time ago. Chow Chow looked straight at Wally. The plan was to take away Orpheus' power and use it to create a doppelganger and make her the leader of the disaster squad. This way, we can truly control the strongest dragon god. Wally's expression darkened. Noah put down Orpheus and turned his gaze to the alien behind Galg. If I didn't hear wrongly, you just called that thing Samuel, right? Chow Chow nodded calmly when he heard Noah's words. However, the expressions of Wally, hey, Luffy, beautiful monkey, and Arthur changed again. Samuel. In the Bible, Samuel transformed into a snake and instigated Adam and Eve to steal the fruit of the Garden of Eden. In this world, Samuel had instigated Adam and Eve to eat the fruits of the Garden of Eden. This had infuriated the God of the Bible, causing the God of the Bible to develop extreme hatred and resentment toward the dragon snakes. The hatred and resentment towards the dragon snake originated from the God of the Bible and was injected into Samuel's body like a curse and poison, causing Samuel to become the embodiment of the God of the Bible's curse and resentment. In the end, he was exiled by the God of the Bible. Noah had heard Asashel mention him before. Therefore, Noah finally understood why that alien posed such a terrifying threat to the dragon snake. It was because he was cursed by the God of the Bible to become a snake that was erased from existence. Therefore, he was extremely lethal to snakes and their close relatives, the dragon snake. It had nothing to do with strength, and was purely an existence that was the nemesis of the dragon snake. To ordinary people, it was just a somewhat terrifying thing. However, to the dragon snake, it was something that was enough to erase their existence. Even Orpheus couldn't resist him. Or rather, it was precisely because it was Orpheus that Samuel became unable to resist. That was the ultimate power against the dragon snake. As long as it was a dragon, then the more powerful it was, the greater the threat Samuel posed. An existence like Orpheus, who was known as the strongest dragon god in the world, was targeted by Samuel. It was simply impossible to resist. Even Orpheus was in such a state, let alone the two heavenly dragons that were lower than the dragon god, as well as those dragons that were lower than the two heavenly dragons. Therefore, Samuel's existence was believed to cause the complete extinction of the dragon race, and even creatures other than the dragon race might be affected. Hence, he was sealed in the deepest part of the underworld by the gods of Greek mythology, thrown into the river Styx, and guarded by Hades, who was in charge of the underworld. Why would something that was sealed in the underworld appear here? Wally asked in puzzlement, and then immediately understood. Could it be Hades? You're right. Chow Chow chuckled. Hades hated demons and fallen angels very much, but the main gods of Greece began to contact demons and fallen angels because of the peace agreement between the three major forces in the Bible and mythology. Hades was very dissatisfied. In addition, Hades coveted Orpheus's power, so we made an agreement with Hades of the underworld. Under the premise of increasing multiple restrictions, we were allowed to summon Samuel once. As Chow Chow's words fell, the xenomorph standing above the massive magic array began to sink into the magic array, slowly disappearing from sight. At this time, Siegfried walked out from Chow Chow's other side and spoke in a deep voice. In our plan, Samuel should have absorbed more power, and we could have used him to deal with the two heavenly dragons. I didn't expect that the power that even Orpheus couldn't resist was neutralized by the God Slayer's mysterious ability. Chow Chow, what should we do next? Our main goal was Orpheus's power. Although we only absorbed half of it, it's considered a success. We can use this power to create a new Orpheus. There's nothing to regret, Chow Chow said indifferently. Since the most basic goal has been achieved, it doesn't matter if we retreat here. As soon as he finished speaking. Retreat? Noah raised his head and looked at Chow Chow. Can you retreat? Don't forget, we still have hostages. Chow Chow smiled. Also, we can get more helpers. Leonardo. At Chow Chow's call, a short boy immediately stood out. In an instant, a shadow under the little boy named Leonardo gradually expanded and covered the surrounding ground. Immediately, huge demonic beasts crawled out from the shadow and roared at the sky. Roar! 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 The roars of the demonic beasts resounded through the sky. In addition to the demonic beasts, grim reapers wearing black robes and holding scythes emerged from the ground one after another. They floated into the air and instantly filled the entire sky. Looking at the grim reapers flying in the sky, Wally spoke in a deep voice. As expected, Hades has provided help to the hero faction. A great battle was about to break out. Chapter 1882. In this world, the so-called Grim Reapers were the followers of Hades, the god of the underworld. Just like the Norse Valkyrie, the Grim Reapers were equivalent to demigods. They were the same as the Grim Reapers that everyone knew. They were responsible for harvesting the souls of those who were about to die and bringing these souls into the underworld. When they saw the large number of Grim Reapers emerging from the ground, everyone understood. The only person who could send the Grim Reapers was the god of the underworld, Hades. In other words, the information given by Chow Chow was completely correct. Hades had really signed an agreement with the people from the hero's faction. Not only did he lend Samuel to the hero's faction, he even brazenly sent the Grim Reaper's army here. His goal was to obtain Orpheus, who had lost most of his power. As for the magical beasts that emerged from the shadow of the little boy named Leonardo, it should be the ability of the Annihilation Maker, right? The little boy named Leonardo from the hero's faction was the wielder of the Annihilation Maker, one of the 4 highest-level god tools. The feast of the Grim Reapers and the magical beasts is being held by us, the descendants of the heroes and the brave. Some people would not agree, but this is also to defeat you. Chow Chow raised the holy spear and pointed it forward. Noah Dole, Wally Lucifer, Red Dragon Emperor, White Dragon Emperor, God Slayer, Lucifer. As opponents, they are the best. Before we retreat, let us have a battle of the highest level. As soon as he finished speaking, the Grim Reapers and the roaring magical beasts that filled the sky immediately moved together. The Grim Reapers streaked across the sky, raised the scythes in their hands high, and rushed in the direction of Noah and the others like a storm. The magical beasts shook the earth, carrying a ferocious aura and killing intent. Amidst the deafening roar, they rushed forward like they were covering the sky and earth. The momentum was as if the end of the world had arrived, and the gates of hell had opened in this world. It made people's hearts tremble. However, none of the people present showed a look of fear. Except for Noah and Orpheus, Wally and the others all had a terrifying aura. Wally flapped his wings and soared into the sky before stopping in midair. Balance breaker. A dazzling light burst out from Vale's body and covered his entire body. In the light, Wally's body was gradually covered by a set of silver armor. His appearance was like a small white dragon, appearing in the sky occupied by the death gods, which was particularly eye-catching. As soon as he appeared, Wally immediately used Forbidden Hand. Disappear. A surge of mana fluctuated on Wally's palm, turning into bolts of lightning that swept in all directions like a berserk lightning pool. As soon as the vanguard of the Grim Reapers came in contact with the violent lightning, they were instantly annihilated by the thick lightning. Not even their bones remained. The power of the strongest White Dragon Emperor in history was on full display here. Somersault Cloud. At the same time, the beautiful monkey formed a hand seal. A golden cloud immediately gathered under his feet and he stepped on it. The beautiful monkey stepped on the somersault cloud and soared into the sky. While Wally's magic attack was still raging, she rushed into it without hesitation and dodged the violent lightning bolts with great agility. Take this. The beautiful monkey, who was nimbly shuttling through the violent lightning attack, waved the cudgel in his hand. The tip of the cudgel vibrated with chi, and in the harsh whistling sound, he swung it at the grim reapers that were not killed by the lightning. Suddenly, the grim reapers that were swung by the cudgel and the beautiful monkey's hand were sent flying like balls. They all fell from the sky like kites with broken strings. It seemed that as the descendant of Sun Wukong, the beautiful monkey's fighting style was almost the same as the great sage, heaven's equal. With the golden cudgel to ensure the attack power, the somersault cloud to ensure the speed, and the ever-changing immortal art, he was simply invincible. As a result, under the joint efforts of Wally and the beautiful monkey, the dense group of grim reapers did not even have the power to resist and were unilaterally crushed. After all, the Grim Reapers also had ranks. Just like the demons had ranks, the Grim Reapers were also divided into low-level Grim Reapers, mid-level Grim Reapers, high-level Grim Reapers, and top-level Grim Reapers. The Grim Reapers here were basically all mid-level Grim Reapers and low-level Grim Reapers. Their strength was almost the same as mid-level and low-level demons, but the scythe in their hands could hurt the soul. If one paid attention to the scythe, it was not worth mentioning for Wally and the beautiful monkey. The demonic beasts on the ground were blocked by the rest of Wally's team. Haegu was a combination of mana, sorcery, and immortal art. His strength was comparable to that of the top-level demons. In the midst of the stampeding demonic beasts, Haegu used an unknown power to create clones. His clones shuttled among the demonic beasts and launched a mixed attack of mana, sorcery, and immortal art. The demonic beasts that were hit by Haegu's mana, sorcery, and immortal art were either annihilated or sent flying like those Grim Reapers. Their entire body shriveled as if all their vitality had been sucked dry, and they died without a burial place. Roar. Occasionally, a ferocious demonic beast suddenly rushed in front of one of Haegu's clones. With a violent roar, it opened its bloody mouth full of sharp teeth and swallowed Haegu. However, at the same time, another Haegu flashed behind that demonic beast. Idiot. That's just a phantom. Haegu sneered and waved his long kimono sleeve. A purple mist immediately spread out and covered that ferocious demonic beast. It was poison. To be more precise, it should be called a sorcery of the poison attribute. Under the shroud of the poisonous mist, the ferocious demonic beast let out a painful cry and then gradually fell to the ground. After struggling for a while, it stopped moving. I have to fight too. Luffy, who was standing at the back, suddenly raised the broom in her hand. She closed her eyes and muttered incantations, causing magic arrays to flash in the space around her. A considerable amount of mana was gathered in those magic arrays. Under the effect of the spells and rituals, the mana turned into pure attribute attacks in the magic arrays. Immediately after, flames, storms, cold air, and lightning swept across the space like a celestial maiden scattering flowers from a celestial maiden. The flames burned the demonic beasts to ashes. The storm blew the huge bodies into the sky. The cold air froze the opponents into ice. The lightning defeated the demonic beasts. As for those lucky fishes that managed to pass through Luffy's large area of effect attribute magic and spells, they were stopped by two figures when they charged towards Luffy. Roar. Fenrir, who was many times smaller than the demonic beasts, rushed out and swept past the bodies of the demonic beasts in an instant. After Fenrir swept past the bodies of the demonic beasts, those demonic beasts suddenly stopped, blood sputtered from their bodies and they fell down. Looking carefully, there were holes on the bodies of those demonic beasts. Those were the marks left behind by Fenrir's fangs. God-killing fangs. If a mere demonic beast was bitten, it would definitely die. As for the other figure, Arthur, who was Luffy's brother, coldly waved the knight's sword in his hand, causing sword light to suddenly flash and cut through the bodies of those demonic beasts. Every time the sword light flashed, those demonic beasts were directly torn apart. Their bodies were broken into pieces and their death was extremely terrifying. Although I don't really want to wave this holy monarch's sword at ordinary demonic beasts, a battle is a battle. There's no other way. Saying such callous words, Arthur's expression didn't change as he brandished his most powerful holy sword and beheaded the magic beasts that were madly charging towards him. In the blink of an eye, a large number of grim reapers and demonic beasts died in the hands of Wally's team. Not only were the members of this team famous, but their strength was also ridiculously strong. Under such circumstances, Noah just held the holy sword and divine blade, looking ahead, stepping on the blood and minced meat on the ground, and walked straight forward. There, Chow Chow carried the holy spear with a joyful expression on his face. Chapter 1883. On the bloody battlefield, Noah and Chow Chow ignored everything around them and looked at each other in the air. However, the two of them behaved completely differently. Noah looked at Chow Chow with cold eyes. Chow Chow's gaze towards Noah was filled with delight. In the next second, Chow Chow's line of sight suddenly moved down and turned to look at the demon slayer and heavenly sword in Noah's hands. He did not hide his curiosity as he asked. He didn't hide his curiosity and asked, "Can you tell me where your swords came from?" Noah did not pay attention to Chow Chow's monologue. His eyes were fixed on Chow Chow. The divine might in his body surged violently and poured into the holy sword and divine blade. Clang! The silver holy sword and the platinum heavenly sword shone brightly. It was as if Noah was holding onto two rays of light. Under the boundless light, he kept walking in the direction of Chow Chow. Noah didn't want to waste any more time talking to Chow Chow. Chow Chow naturally understood this as well. The holy spear on his shoulder lowered slightly. "I thought I had studied you thoroughly, but I didn't expect you to use an unknown powerful weapon. Also, your ability to neutralize Samuel's power is very mysterious. I really don't want to fight you under such circumstances." Despite saying so, the corners of Chow Chow's mouth couldn't help but curl upwards as if he was expressing his true feelings. However, it's human nature to be excited in the face of the unknown. "Let me see how mysterious you are in battle." After that, Chow Chow pointed the holy spear in his hand at Noah. Balance breaker. The holy spear of Godslayer shone. The flash of light turned into a round wheel that emitted holy waves and appeared behind Chow Chow. On the outline of the round wheel, 7 bowling ball-sized spheres appeared abruptly. They surrounded Chow Chow and floated in the air. Noah suddenly stopped in his tracks and his eyes began to ripple. Is that the balance breaker of the most powerful godly destruction tool? Isn't it a little too calm? Whether it was Noah or Wally, when they used the balance breaker, it caused a huge commotion. However, Chow Chow's balance breaker was like the full moon at night, silently rising into the night sky. It was so calm that it felt strange. Noah's intuition told him that balance breaker was definitely not as calm and simple as it looked on the surface. The next moment, his intuition was confirmed. "Let me show you my 7 treasures." Chow Chow raised the holy spear that didn't change at all. With just this action, one of the 7 spheres floating around him suddenly floated to Chow Chow's front and flew into his hand. Luan Bao. Following Chow Chow's shout, the sphere in Chow Chow's hand suddenly trembled. Wang! A burst of invisible fluctuations suddenly shook the space, like a wave, instantly covering the surroundings. It was also at this moment that the invisible ripples began to surge violently. Then, in Noah's hands, the brilliance of the elven devices named Demon Slayer and Heavenly Sword of Salvation suddenly dimmed. Noah couldn't help but be surprised. What? Chow Chow was also surprised. Obviously, the abnormality of the Holy Sword and Heavenly Sword was beyond their expectations. At this moment, Aster's voice sounded in Noah's mind. "Master, the power of that holy spear is interfering with us." Interfering? Noah looked at Chow Chow with a terrifying look in his eyes. "What did you do?" The one who answered Noah's question was not Chow Chow but Wally, who fell from the sky. That's the ability of Chow Chow's forbidden hand. Wally stared at the 7 spheres around Chow Chow and said in a deep voice. Chow Chow's forbidden hand can use the ability called the 7 treasures, which are the 7 spheres. Each sphere represents an ability. The so-called 7 treasures are 7 completely different abilities. 7. Noah was really surprised. Although divine artifacts all had unique abilities, most divine artifacts only had one type of ability. Only God Annihilation artifacts could have more than 2 types of abilities. For example, the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear can multiply and transfer. As for White Dragon Emperor's light wings, divine dividing, it reduced the absorption by half. But Chow Chow's forbidden hand can have 7 abilities. That's simply unheard of. So, that forbidden hand is not the original forbidden hand of the Holy Spear. Wally said. That's a subspecies of forbidden hand. Every divine artifact has its own forbidden hand. As long as the conditions are met, the wielder will be able to obtain the power of the forbidden hand and increase the power of the divine artifact by several times. However, divine artifacts can also change and evolve according to the wielder's thoughts, becoming stronger and stronger. If the original forbidden hand of the divine artifact was not suitable for the wielder, then a brand new forbidden hand would be born or developed. That is a subspecies of forbidden hand. Different from the original forbidden hand of the divine artifact, a new type of forbidden hand. The original forbidden hand of the Holy Spear is not suitable for me, so I developed this subspecies of forbidden hand and obtained the ability called the 7 treasures. Chow Chow raised the sphere in his hand. This is one of the 7 treasures, the Luan treasure. It has the ability to destroy weapons, starting from the strongest weapon within its range. Originally, I was going to use it to destroy Arthur's Holy King's sword, but after seeing the power of the sword in your hand, I felt that the Luan treasure should first destroy your sword. Facts have proven that your sword is stronger than the strongest holy sword, but it's a bit too strong. The Luan treasure's ability can only suppress it to a certain extent, but it can't destroy it. This is the forbidden hand of the strongest divine artifact. Generally speaking, there shouldn't be any weapon that can't be destroyed. Unfortunately, Noah's elven device is not an ordinary weapon. Even the forbidden hand of the strongest divine artifact can't destroy it. However, just as Chow Chow said, although the Luan treasure can't destroy Aster and Athena, it can suppress the elven device's power to a certain extent. Other than the Luan treasure, my forbidden hand has 6 other abilities. However, one of them can't be effective against you, so I'll use it on someone else. Chow Chow raised his hand. Female treasure. One of the spheres floating around Chow Chow suddenly trembled and shot out. It streaked across the sky at an extremely fast speed, nimbly dodging the grim reapers and demonic beasts, and rushed to the front of a person. That person was Hey Gu. Be careful. Wally couldn't help but shout. Before that, Hey Gu seemed to have sensed Chow Chow's attack by relying on the flow of qi. Without any hesitation, he waved his long sleeves, causing a fog to envelop him, and his body became illusory. However, at the same time, the sphere also bloomed with a dazzling light. The light directly enveloped Hey Gu, causing Hey Ge's illusory body to gradually solidify. Shrouded in the light, Hey Gu struggled with great difficulty, unable to move his body. It's useless. The female treasure is able to completely seal the power of the women in the field for a certain period of time, starting from the strongest one, and it can't be avoided. Of course, it's useless against men. Chow Chow curled his lips and smiled, raising a hand. Then, what kind of ability should I use next? As soon as he finished speaking, the spheres surrounding Chow Chow suddenly trembled and shot out, rushing in the direction of Noah and Wally. Noah's footsteps suddenly staggered, but instead of retreating, he moved forward. Violent divine power poured into the holy sword and divine saber, causing the holy sword and divine saber to shine again. The light was many times weaker than the holy sword and divine saber from before. However, Noah was still like an arrow that left the bow, rushing forward in the faint sound of the air breaking. On the way, Noah avoided all the spheres, allowing Noah to rush in the direction of Chow Chow, who was behind him. Although he didn't know what other abilities Chow Chow would use, those abilities were all based on the spheres. Therefore, Noah only needed to go straight for Chow Chow, who no longer had any spheres around him. Chapter 1884. Clang, the light shining on the demon slayer and heavenly sword was extremely weak, proving that Luan Bao's ability was still working. Luan Bao's ability was able to destroy Aster and Athena, who had turned into elven devices. In order to resist such power, both Aster and Athena had to use their own power to resist, causing the amount of power they could provide to Noah was much less. However, Noah was still pouring a steady stream of divine might into the holy sword and heavenly sword, activating the power of the two highest grade elven devices. Absolute Sword Technique. Initial form Purple Lightning. The extremely fast thrust allowed Noah to dash out like lightning, almost impossible to catch with the naked eye. However, because the power provided by the elven devices decreased, Chow Chow was still able to catch sight of Noah's figure. He's coming straight for me? Did he see through my weakness again? Chow Chow was not surprised but delighted. You are indeed the best human. Noah Dole. Chow Chow, who was shouting, did not dodge Noah's attack. Poochie. In the next moment, the silver holy sword and platinum heavenly sword pierced through Chow Chow's body, causing a clear tearing sound to reverberate in the surroundings. However, Noah's expression did not have the slightest trace of joy. Instead, his gaze sharpened as he released the divine might gathered under his feet and flashed away like a phantom. Almost at the same time, another Chow Chow suddenly appeared in front of the Chow Chow who was pierced through by the holy sword and heavenly sword. The holy spear in his hand was like a flash of light as it pierced through Noah's original position and pierced through the other Chow Chow. Bang! Amidst the muffled explosion, the holy spear that killed the Chow Chow who was pierced through by the holy sword and heavenly sword suddenly exploded. Oh! Chow Chow calmly withdrew his holy spear. You didn't succeed. TSK. Noah was speechless. Doppelganger and teleportation? As expected of you, to be able to see through it so quickly. Chow Chow smiled cheerfully and summoned two spheres. Ma Bao can move himself and his enemies at will. Scholar Bao can create multiple clones. After using Forbidden Hand, I had activated their abilities. I left a doppelganger at the original location and then moved it to another location. When you attack me, I will move back and decide the victor with one strike. That is my plan, Chow Chow revealed a fearless smile. That's because I believe that you'll definitely be able to see through my weakness and directly ignore the 7 treasures to attack me. Not only was this guy's ability to restrain others, but his thinking was also so meticulous. He had completely combined strength and wisdom in a battle. It was really troublesome. No wonder even Wally was forced to use Tyrannosaurus. Undoubtedly, Chow Chow was only a human, but he relied on the power of the strongest god's destruction tool and his own training and thinking to reach such a level. I'm afraid that in this world, no human could be stronger than Chow Chow, right? An extremely skilled opponent like Chow Chow, who had a variety of abilities and meticulous thinking, was really too difficult to deal with. Although he didn't ask Wally whether he had won against Chow Chow after using Tyrannosaurus, Noah already knew the result without asking. There was no doubt that after using Tyrannosaurus, Wally would never lose to Chow Chow, but he still couldn't win against Chow Chow. After all, although Tyrannosaurus was very powerful and could allow Wally to instantly obtain the power of a Rubian before it was sealed, reaching the level of the Sky Dragon and contending with the top 10 masters in the world, it was only power at best. Coupled with the extremely serious consumption, even if Wally used Tyrannosaurus, there was still a gap between him and the top 10 masters in the world. If it weren't for this, Wally wouldn't have been so easily defeated by Noah, who had just become a god slayer not long ago. However, even so, Wally, who used Tyrannosaurus, was definitely not weaker than a god like Loki. It was definitely not a problem for him to reach 4 digits. The only problem was that the consumption was too high and the duration was too short. Therefore, in Noah's opinion, without understanding all the abilities of Chow Chow's 7 treasures, Wally should have been delayed by Chow Chow until the duration of Tyrannosaurus was over. It was no wonder that Chow Chow could lead the heroes faction and stand above the major factions in the group of disasters, and contend with the descendants of the old Demon King faction. Both Wally and Black Song had a very high opinion of Chow Chow, and even reminded Noah more than once to be careful of him. It was not unreasonable. Hugh, at that moment, Noah took a deep breath and calmly said, "Aster, Athena, you two should rest for a while." Both Aster and Athena did not respond. However, the holy sword and the divine blade suddenly turned into a burst of light particles and disappeared in Noah's hand. Seeing this scene, Chow Chow raised his eyebrows. However, before Chow Chow could speak, Noah calmly said, "Chow Chow, you didn't let your title as the strongest god's extermination tool go to waste. You've already unleashed the power of that spear to the fullest. You've even developed a subspecies of forbidden hand. I now understand why Wally thinks you're the strongest existence among humans. To be able to receive such a high evaluation from you, it is truly an honor." Chow Chow narrowed his eyes. Without batting an eyelid, he summoned the 7 spheres to his side. "But, didn't you also kill a god as a human? So, since you have fully demonstrated your ability, it is about time for me to show you my full strength." Noah looked directly at Chow Chow. "My current full strength." "Your current full strength?" Chow Chow was stunned. However, in the next moment, Chow Chow's eyes suddenly focused. Because, with a flash, a crimson gauntlet appeared in Noah's hand. "Drake," Noah said calmly. "Is that okay?" "No problem." Drake's voice sounded from the jade in the gauntlet. "Samuel is no longer here, and I have recovered. You can use your current full strength as much as you want, partner." Hearing this, Noah suddenly smiled and raised the gauntlet in his hand high up. In the next moment, the divine aura running wildly in Noah's body was converted into mana and poured into the crimson gauntlet. Forbidden Hand, Balance Breaker. The crimson gauntlet suddenly bloomed with an unprecedentedly dazzling light, setting off waves of crimson waves that turned into visible airwaves and spread out in all directions like a violent wind. Seeing this, Chow Chow's expression became serious. Wally, who was watching from the side, mumbled, "Is he finally going to use that forbidden hand?" When the demons, angels, and fallen angels formed a peace treaty, Wally, as a member of the disaster group, launched an attack on the 3 major forces. At that time, the one who faced Wally was Noah. Wally had never forgotten Noah's forbidden hand at that time. It should be said that everyone who saw Noah use forbidden hand at that time did not forget that scene. The crimson airwaves shook the air and covered Noah's body amidst the tremors. The crimson gauntlet in Noah's hand disintegrated little by little like illusory scales and merged with the crimson airwaves. Bang! The surging airwaves shook Noah's body, stirring up waves of sand and dust, causing the ground to tremble slightly. As if a crimson dragon's shadow covered Noah's body, Noah, who was surrounded by crimson airwaves, opened his eyes and looked at Chow Chow. Meeting Noah's gaze, Chow Chow's hand holding the holy spear tightened bit by bit. "As expected, your forbidden hand is also a subspecies?" The second heavenly dragon's forbidden hand was originally a materialized armor. However, in the past, because Noah's forbidden hand had merged with the Dragon Emperor's chi scales, it had turned into a set of chi armor instead of a physical armor. Now, with the reappearance of the artifact, the forbidden hand of the gauntlet once again reappeared as an airwave. Different from the original forbidden hand, Noah's forbidden hand was naturally a subspecies of forbidden hand. We're both users of the subspecies forbidden hand. Is your 7 treasures more powerful than my chi armor? Let's see. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.